The king didn't have a face. That's what they whispered in the corridors, that he wore the darkness like skin, that his voice could split stone, that he'd killed his last 3 brides before the vows were finished. And tonight, they were sending Iris to his bed, not because she was valuable, because she wasn't. Her father had made that clear when he shoved her toward the royal guards. Take this one. The other has a future. Iris had always known she was worthless. She just never thought they'd make it official. If you want to see how a discarded girl becomes the one thing a monster can't control, stay until the end. Hit like, drop your city in the comments, and let's begin. The rope burns on Iris's wrists had stopped hurting an hour ago. She sat in the back of the cart, knees pulled to her chest, watching the trees blur past in the moonlight. The 2 guards up front hadn't spoken to her since they'd left the village. They didn't need to. She knew what she was. Cargo. Expendable cargo, at that. The youngest guard, barely older than Iris herself, had avoided looking at her the entire journey. His shoulders stayed hunched forward like he was trying to fold in on himself. The older one, scarred and gray at the temples, had checked the knots on her wrists twice. Like she might run. She wouldn't. Where would she go? Back to a father who'd bartered her like spoiled meat? Back to a pack that had spent 22 years reminding her she didn't belong? Back to the house where her sister was probably already redecorating Iris's room, claiming the extra closet space she'd always wanted? Iris pressed her cheek against the splintered wood of the cart and closed her eyes. She could still hear her sister's voice from that morning. "It should have been you from the start," Sarah had said, brushing her copper hair in the mirror. Perfect hair that caught the light like spun metal. Perfect face with high cheekbones and full lips. Perfect wolf sleeping just beneath her perfect skin, ready to emerge at the first hint of danger. Father was only protecting me. You understand that, don't you? Iris had understood. She always understood. That's what happened when you were born wrong. You learned to understand everyone else's reasons for hurting you. You learned to nod and smile and say, "Of course," when they explained why you couldn't have the things they took for granted. You learned to make yourself smaller and quieter and less until maybe, possibly, they'd forget you were there long enough to stop finding new ways to remind you that you shouldn't be. It never worked, but she tried anyway. The cart hit a rut in the road. Iris's shoulder slammed against the wooden side. She bit down on her lip to keep from making a sound. The younger guard glanced back. His eyes met hers for half a second before he jerked his head forward again. Iris tasted blood. She thought about her mother, about the woman who'd taught her to read, who'd shown her which herbs stopped bleeding and which ones caused it, who'd sat with her through long winter nights and told her stories about girls who'd been underestimated and had grown up to be queens. That woman had disappeared the day Iris turned 13 and failed to shift. The woman who'd remained had eyes like broken glass and a voice that had learned how to cut without ever raising above a whisper. "You'll have to work harder than the others," her mother had said, watching Sarah shift for the first time, watching her daughter's bones crack and reform into something beautiful and deadly. "You'll have to be useful in other ways." So Iris had worked. She'd learned to cook meals that made pack members groan with pleasure. She'd learned to mend clothes so the stitches were invisible. She'd memorized the genealogy of every family in the pack going back 5 generations. She'd studied herb lore until she could identify a plant by smell alone. She'd made herself indispensable in every way a wolfless girl could be indispensable. And it still hadn't mattered. Because in the end, when the king's men had come demanding tribute, a woman of childbearing age to serve the crown, her father had looked at both his daughters and chosen the one he could afford to lose. The cart jerked to a stop. "We're here," the older guard said. Iris opened her eyes. The castle rose against the night sky like something carved from a nightmare. Black stone that seemed to absorb moonlight rather than reflect it. Sharp towers that cut into the clouds. No lights in any window. No smoke from any chimney. No sign that anything living existed inside those walls. It didn't look like a place where people lived. It looked like a place where things ended. The younger guard hopped down from the driver's seat and fumbled with the cart's gate. His hands were shaking so badly the latch kept slipping from his fingers. "It's all right," Iris said quietly. "I can manage." He flinched at her voice, actually flinched, like she'd struck him, and stepped back so fast he nearly tripped over his own feet. The older guard cut her wrist ropes with a knife that had seen too much use. The blade was notched and stained. He didn't meet her eyes. "Walk," he said. "Don't run. Don't scream. He hates screaming." "Who does?" The guard's jaw tightened. A muscle jumped beneath the scar that ran from his ear to his collar. "You'll see soon enough." They led her through gates that groaned like living things when they swung open. The sound echoed across the empty courtyard, empty except for dead grass and stones that might have been decorative once, before whatever had happened here happened. Iris tried not to think about what that might have been. They crossed the courtyard. Their footsteps rang too loud in the silence. Iris counted them. 43 steps from the gate to the entrance. 43 steps between her old life and whatever came next. The stairs leading up to the main doors were worn smooth by centuries of feet. Iris wondered how many of those feet had belonged to girls like her, girls who'd been sent here because no one wanted them anywhere else, girls who'd never come back. The castle doors opened before they reached them. A woman stood in the entrance. She was tall, thin, dressed in gray that matched her hair, and her expression, and probably her soul. Her eyes moved over Iris the way you'd examine a chicken at market, clinical, disappointed, already calculating the loss. "This is what they sent?" the woman said. Her voice could have frozen water. The older guard nodded. "The tribute, as requested by the crown. I requested a woman of childbearing age and reasonable strength. This is a girl." The woman's lip curled. "A sick one by the look of her." "I'm not sick," Iris said. The woman's gaze snapped to her like a whip. "Did I address you?" Iris's mouth closed. The woman circled her slowly. Iris forced herself to stand still, to not hunch her shoulders or duck her head or do any of the things that usually made people stop looking at her quite so closely. "No wolf scent," the woman muttered, more to herself than anyone else. "Weak frame, poor posture, scarring on the hands, manual labor, so she's low-born despite whatever lies they told us. Hair like rust, eyes too large for her face, malnourished." She stopped in front of Iris. "Turn out your pockets." "I don't have—" "Turn them out." Iris pulled the insides of her dress pockets free, a brass button that had fallen off her coat 3 weeks ago, a piece of thread she'd been meaning to use for mending, a small stone she'd found by the river and kept for no reason she could name. Nothing else. The woman made a sound of disgust deep in her throat. "They sent me a beggar." "My father is the Pax Beta," Iris said quietly. "I'm not a beggar." "Then why did he send you instead of keeping you?" The question landed like a physical blow. Iris had spent 3 days trying not to ask herself the same thing, trying not to think about the relief in her father's eyes when the guards had agreed to take her, trying not to remember the way he'd turned his back before the cart even pulled away. She had no answer for the woman, or rather, she had too many answers, and none of them were things she could say out loud without breaking into pieces she'd never be able to put back together. The woman sighed. It was the sound of someone perpetually disappointed by a world that insisted on being worse than expected. "4th floor," she said, "East wing. You'll be given a room and basic provisions. Do not wander. Do not speak to the other girls unless directly spoken to. Do not touch anything that doesn't belong to you. Do not make noise after dark. And do not, under any circumstances, attempt to leave your assigned area once the sun sets." "Why not?" The woman's expression flickered, something that might have been pity, if pity could exist in a place that felt like it had been built to kill it. "Because that's when he hunts," she said. The room was smaller than the storage closet back home. A bed that was more plank than mattress. A chair with one leg shorter than the others. A basin of water that had a film of ice across the top despite it being early autumn. One window, narrow as a knife wound, looking out over nothing but darkness and the suggestion of mountains in the distance. No mirror. Iris sat on the bed and immediately felt the frame sag beneath her weight. One of the support slats was cracked. She shifted carefully to distribute her weight more evenly. The woman in gray, she'd said her name was Margot, but she'd said it the way you'd announce a death, had left her here with instructions to rest and prepare. Prepare for what? She hadn't said. Iris looked around the room. There wasn't much to see. The walls were stone, unadorned except for water stains that made patterns like continents on a map. The floor was wood, warped in places, with gaps wide enough that Iris could see darkness between the boards. She wondered what was down there. She wondered if she wanted to know. Footsteps echoed in the hall outside. Voices, low, urgent, The kind of voices people used when they didn't want to be overheard but had forgotten how to whisper properly. Lasted 2 hours. Begged the whole time. Couldn't even recognize her face after... The voices faded. Iris's hands started shaking. She pressed them flat against her thighs and counted her breaths the way her mother had taught her, back when her mother still looked at her like she might be worth teaching. In for 4. Hold for 4. Out for 4. It didn't help much. The crying started around midday. Iris couldn't tell where it was coming from. Somewhere below, maybe? Or in the walls themselves. A girl's voice, raw and broken, pleading in a language Iris didn't recognize. No one came to help. The crying went on for an hour. Then it stopped in a way that made Iris's stomach turn to ice. She stood and went to the window, pressed her forehead against the cold glass. Outside, the sky was gray. Everything was gray here. Like color had given up and gone somewhere easier. In the courtyard below, she saw movement. 2 guards carrying something between them, a body wrapped in cloth. They moved quickly, efficiently, like this was routine, like this happened often enough that they'd learned the most efficient way to do it. Iris stepped back from the window. She thought about her sister, about Sarah, who'd stood at her bedroom window this morning, watching Iris get loaded into the cart. Sarah hadn't waved, hadn't cried. She'd just stood there, one hand resting on the glass, her expression carefully neutral. Iris had wanted to hate her for it, but she couldn't, because Sarah was doing exactly what Iris would have done in her position, surviving, making the smart choice, protecting herself first. That's what you did when you were part of a pack. You looked after your own interests. You didn't throw yourself away for someone who'd already been thrown away by everyone else. Iris understood that. She'd always understood. The lock on her door turned. Iris spun around. A different woman entered, younger than Margot, but harder somehow. Like she'd started out soft, and life had beaten it out of her one disappointment at a time. She carried a tray with bread that looked 3 days old, cheese that smelled sour, and water that had things floating in it. "Eat," she said, setting the tray on the chair. The short leg made it tilt. The water sloshed. "Thank you," Iris said. The woman paused, looked at her like she'd said something in a foreign language. "What?" "I said thank you for bringing the food." "Don't thank me." The woman's voice was flat. "You're on the rotation tonight." Iris's stomach clenched. "The rotation?" "He feeds every 3 days. Tonight's the 3rd day." "Feeds?" The woman's mouth twitched. Not quite a smile. Not quite anything. "You really don't know anything, do you?" "I know I was sent here as tribute. I know there's a king who—" "He's not the king," the woman interrupted. "The king is dead. Has been for 6 years. Died screaming, if the stories are true." Iris stared at her. "Then who—" "His son, or what's left of him." The woman moved to the door. "Eat. You'll need your strength, and when they come for you tonight, don't fight. Fighting only makes it worse. The last girl who fought—" She stopped, shook her head. "Just don't fight." Wait, but she was gone. The lock turned again. The sound of footsteps faded down the hall. Iris looked at the food. Her hands were shaking again. She forced herself to pick up the bread. It was hard as stone. She had to tear it with her teeth. It tasted like sawdust and broken promises, but she swallowed it anyway. If something was going to kill her tonight, she wouldn't give it the satisfaction of finding her weak. She'd spent her whole life being weak. Tonight, she'd try something different. She ate the cheese, drank the water, made herself finish every bite even though her stomach was trying to reject all of it. Then she sat on the bed and waited. The sun moved across the sky. The shadows in her room grew longer. The temperature dropped until Iris could see her breath. She thought about running. The window was too narrow. The door was locked. Even if she could get out, where would she go? She didn't know the castle layout, didn't know where the guards were stationed, didn't know anything except that girls who came here didn't leave. So running was out. Fighting was out. The woman had been clear about that. Which left what? Accepting it? Going quietly? Letting whatever was down there tear her apart without protest? Iris had done that her whole life. She'd accepted every rejection, every insult, every casual cruelty her pack had thrown at her. She'd swallowed her anger and her hurt and her rage until there was so much of it inside her she couldn't remember what it felt like to be anything else. And it hadn't saved her. It had never saved her. So maybe tonight she'd try something else. Maybe she'd stop accepting. The light outside faded completely. Full dark settled over the castle like a shroud. Iris stood and moved to the door, pressed her ear against the wood. Footsteps. Multiple sets. Coming closer. She stepped back. The lock turned. The door opened. 2 guards stood in the hallway. Different ones from this morning. These were bigger. Harder. They wore leather armor stained with things Iris tried not to identify. Neither spoke. One gestured for her to follow. Iris walked between them through corridors that seemed to shift in the torchlight. The flames didn't flicker the way normal fire did. They burned too still, too steady, like they'd forgotten how to dance. They passed doors that were bolted from the outside. Iris counted them. 7. Behind one, someone was crying. Behind another, someone was laughing, high and broken and wrong. No one stopped to check. They went downstairs. More stairs than seemed possible. The castle couldn't be this deep. Nothing should be this deep. The temperature dropped with each step until Iris's breath came out in white clouds. Her feet were numb by the time they reached the bottom. A hallway stretched ahead. Torches lined both walls, but somehow made the darkness worse. At the end stood a door 3 times the height of a man, carved with symbols that hurt to look at. Protection wards, maybe. Or warnings. The wood was scored with deep gouges. Claw marks, Iris realized. From the inside. Something had tried to get out, or maybe something had tried to get in, and whatever lived inside had fought back. One guard moved forward and unlocked the door. The mechanism was complex. Multiple locks, multiple keys. Like whoever had designed it wanted to make very sure that whatever was inside stayed inside. The other guard looked at Iris. His eyes were dead. He doesn't like sudden movements. He doesn't like loud voices. He doesn't like questions. What is he like? Iris asked. We don't know. No one's lasted long enough to find out. He pushed the door open. Darkness yawned beyond it, thick and absolute and alive somehow. The kind of darkness that had weight, that pressed against your skin like cold hands. Iris's heart hammered against her ribs so hard she thought it might crack bone. Every instinct she had, every small, scared part of her that had learned to keep her head down and her mouth shut, was screaming at her to run, to fight, to do anything except step through that door into the dark where girls went and didn't come back. But she'd spent 22 years listening to her instincts, and they'd never saved her from anything. They'd taught her to be small, to be quiet, to be forgettable, and she'd still ended up here. So she stopped listening. She straightened her spine, lifted her chin, and walked into the dark like she had every right to be there. The door slammed shut behind her. The sound echoed for longer than it should have. Then silence. Complete and total silence. Iris couldn't see her hand in front of her face, couldn't see anything. The darkness was so absolute it felt like being buried alive. She stood very still and tried to orient herself. Tried to remember which direction the door had been. Tried to figure out how big this space was. Then she heard it. Breathing. Low, ragged, rattling in a chest that sounded too big to be human, coming from somewhere to her left. Iris turned toward the sound. Hello? The breathing stopped. For 1 heartbeat. 2. Then a voice came out of the darkness. They sent another one. It was ruined, scraped raw, like someone had spent years screaming, and this was all that remained of their voice. Iris swallowed. Yes. You're small. Yes. Silence. Then the sound of movement. Something large shifting position, claws scraping against stone. Weak, the voice said. Probably, Iris agreed. More silence. Then, you're not screaming. Would it help? A sound that might have been laughter, might have been coughing. No. Then why would I waste the energy? The breathing moved, closer now, circling. Iris felt the air shift around her, felt the heat of something massive passing just inches from her face. She forced herself not to turn, not to try to track it. That would make her pray. She stood still and waited. What's your name? The voice asked. It came from behind her now. Iris. That's a soft name, a flower name. My mother liked flowers. Past tense? Iris's throat tightened. She stopped liking most things, including me. The breathing stopped moving. Why? I was born wrong. Wrong how? No wolf, no strength, no ability to give her grandchildren who'd be worth something. Silence. Then the voice again, quieter now. They sent you here because you were useless to them. It wasn't a question. Yes, Iris said anyway. And you accepted that? What choice did I have? You could have fought, could have refused, could have run. I'm not a fighter, and there was nowhere to run to. So you just gave up. Iris felt something flare in her chest, something hot and sharp that she'd been pushing down for so long she'd almost forgotten it was there. I didn't give up, she said. I survived. There's a difference. The breathing came closer, so close now that Iris could feel it on her neck, could smell earth and blood and something wild. Is there? The voice whispered. Yes. Giving up is stopping. Surviving is continuing even when you want to stop. Even when every single person around you is telling you there's no point. Even when you agree with them. Iris's hands clenched at her sides. I survived 22 years in a pack that wanted me gone. I survived a father who looked at me like I was a mistake he couldn't fix. I survived a sister who... She stopped. Her voice had gotten too loud, too raw, but the breathing didn't pull away. Who what? The voice asked. Who took everything I wanted and looked good doing it? You're angry. I'm furious. At her? At everyone. At myself most of all. Why yourself? Iris laughed. It came out broken. Because I kept trying, kept hoping that if I just worked a little harder, if I just made myself a little more useful, if I just... She stopped, breathed. It doesn't matter. It matters. Why? You're going to kill me anyway. Silence. Then light bloomed in the darkness. Not from a torch, not from a candle. From the walls themselves, a pale blue luminescence that grew until Iris could finally see. She wished she couldn't. The creature in front of her was enormous, 8 feet tall at least, maybe more, covered in black fur that seemed to absorb the light instead of reflecting it. Its body was wrong, caught between wolf and man, refusing to commit to either. Too many joints, too much muscle, proportions that made Iris's eyes hurt trying to process them. The face was the worst part, almost human. Almost, but not quite. Yellow eyes stared at her from beneath a heavy brow. The jaw was elongated. The teeth, when it spoke, Iris could see them, were designed for tearing. I'm cursed, it said. The voice matched the face now, made sense in a way it hadn't in the darkness. 6 years ago, I killed someone I shouldn't have, someone important. This is what I became. Iris stared at him, at the claws that were longer than her fingers, at the muscles coiled beneath the fur, at the intelligence burning behind those inhuman eyes. You're the king, she whispered. I was. And now? His lips, if they could be called that, pulled back, revealing teeth that belonged in nightmares. Now I'm the monster in the castle, the thing they send tribute to, the creature that kills and kills and kills because that's all I'm good for anymore. He moved closer. Iris's legs wanted to run, wanted to collapse, wanted to do anything except keep her standing here while death approached. She locked her knees and stayed put. You're the first one who hasn't begged, he said. You said it wouldn't help. It wouldn't, but they usually try anyway. I'm not them. He tilted his head, studied her with those yellow eyes that saw too much. No, you're not. He raised one massive claw. The talons caught the blue light and threw it back in sharp angles. Iris closed her eyes. This was it then. 22 years of surviving just to end here, in the dark, alone. At least it would be quick. At least it would be over. At least... She heard him laugh. Her eyes flew open. He was laughing, a broken, rusty sound like he'd forgotten how and was remembering mid-attempt. What? Iris said. You, he said. You're not even going to try to run. Would I make it to the door? No. Then why run? He laughed again, longer this time. The sound filled the space around them until it didn't sound quite so broken anymore. I'm not going to kill you, he said. Iris stared at him. Why not? Because you're the first one who didn't bore me. He turned away, moving to the far side of the chamber. Iris saw books there, Hundreds of them, thousands, maybe, stacked in piles that reached the ceiling, stuffed into shelves carved directly into the stone walls, scattered across tables and chairs and the floor. "You can leave," he said, not looking at her. "The guards will take you back to your room." But Iris didn't move. She stood there, heart still racing, mind spinning, trying to process what had just happened. This thing, this king, this monster, this cursed creature wearing a shape that shouldn't exist, had spared her. Not because she'd begged, not because she'd fought, because she'd been honest. "What if I don't want to leave?" she said. The king went still. Every muscle in that massive body tensed. He turned slowly. "What? What if I want to stay? Why would you want that?" Iris thought about her room upstairs, about the cold and the silence and the certainty that tomorrow, or the next day, or the day after that, they'd just send her back down here anyway. Thought about spending her nights alone in the dark, waiting for death. Thought about the alternative. "Because," she said, gesturing at the books, "you have better reading material." The king stared at her. Then he laughed again, really laughed this time, head thrown back, the sound rolling through the chamber like thunder. "You want to stay in a monster's lair," he said, "because of books?" "I like books. Everyone likes books." "No, everyone likes the idea of books, or they like saying they read, or they like how they look on a shelf." Iris moved closer to the nearest pile. "I actually read them." The king's eyes narrowed. "Prove it." Iris reached out and picked up the top volume. It was old, leather binding cracked with age, pages soft and yellowed. She opened it carefully. "The Histories of the Northern Kingdoms, Volume 3, she read. Chapter 12, The Collapse of the Moonstone Pact. She looked up. This is the account that most scholars dismiss because the author was convicted of sedition. But he was the only one who actually interviewed the survivors. Everyone else just copied the official report and called it history. The king moved closer. His expression shifted into something Iris couldn't quite read. "You've read this?" "My mother had a copy. She used to read it to me when I was small." Iris ran her fingers over the page. "Before she decided I wasn't worth teaching anymore." "Because you were born without a wolf." "Yes." "They blamed you for something you couldn't control." "Yes." The king was silent for a long moment. Then he sat, or rather folded himself down into a crouch that still left him taller than Iris standing. He studied her face like she was a book he was trying to read in dim light. "They really sent you here to die," he said quietly. "Yes. Your own father. He made the logical choice between a daughter who could strengthen the pack and a daughter who would only weaken it." Iris set the book down carefully. "I don't blame him." "You should." "Why? He was right." "Was he?" The king gestured at her with one massive claw. "You survived longer in this room than anyone has in months. You're still standing, still talking, still choosing to stay when I've given you permission to leave." His eyes met hers. "Doesn't sound weak to me." Iris opened her mouth, closed it, couldn't find words. No one had ever said anything like that to her before. The king stood and moved to one of the shelves. He pulled down a slim volume bound in green cloth. "If you're staying," he said, "you should read this one first." He held it out. Iris took it. Their fingers brushed, her skin against his fur-covered claws. Neither pulled away. "What is it?" she asked. "A story about a girl who refused to be what everyone told her she was." "What happened to her?" The king's eyes held hers. "She burned down the world that tried to bury her, and built a new one from the ashes." Iris looked down at the book in her hands. The cover was worn smooth. Someone had read this many times. "You've read it," she said. "More than once." "Why?" "Because I keep hoping the ending will change." "Does it?" "No, but I keep reading anyway." Iris understood that. She'd spent years rereading her mother's books, hoping that somehow the stories would be different, that the heroes would make different choices, that the endings wouldn't hurt quite so much. They never changed, but she kept reading too. "I'd like to hear it," she said. The king's expression shifted. For just a moment, the monster fell away and Iris saw something else underneath, something young and broken and desperately lonely. "Then sit," he said, "and I'll tell you how it begins." That night, Iris didn't return to her room. She stayed in the darkness with the monster, surrounded by books that climbed the walls and swallowed the ceiling. She sat in a chair that was too large for her while the king told her the story of the girl who refused to die. His voice was ruined, but his words were beautiful. He made the story come alive in ways Iris had never heard before, made her see the girl, feel her anger, understand her choices. He didn't just read the words on the page, he lived them. When he finished the first chapter, Iris asked him to continue, so he did. Somewhere around the third chapter, she learned his name. Kalen, he said, though I haven't heard anyone use it in 6 years. What do they call you? They don't. They just point and whisper. Iris thought about that. About going 6 years without hearing your own name. About becoming the thing people feared instead of the person you were. What did you do? She asked. To deserve the curse? Kalen was quiet for a long time. I don't remember. What do you mean? The curse took the memory. That was part of the price. I know I killed someone. Someone important enough that the gods themselves intervened. But I don't remember who or why or how. I just remember... He stopped. I remember waking up like this and knowing I deserved it. That seems cruel. Curses usually are. No, I mean, punishing you without letting you remember what you're being punished for. How are you supposed to regret something you don't remember doing? Kalen's eyes found hers. You're the first person to ask that. Have many people asked about the curse? No. Most are too busy screaming. Iris pulled her knees up to her chest in the oversized chair. I've spent my whole life being the person everyone else decided I was. The weak one, the useless one, the one who'd never amount to anything. She rested her chin on her knees. It sounds exhausting, being someone else's monster. It is, Kalen said softly. They sat in silence for a while after that. Iris told him about her pack, about her father's eyes when he'd chosen Sarah over her, about the mate who'd looked at her once during the introduction ceremony and walked away without speaking, about the loneliness that had grown inside her like a second skeleton, holding her upright even when she wanted to collapse. That's the worst part, Kalen said, somewhere near dawn when the blue light had started to fade. Not the claws or the fur or the face that makes children cry. It's knowing that even without the curse, I was always going to end up alone. Iris looked at him. At this creature who'd killed and been punished for it, who'd lived 6 years in the dark with only books for company, who'd been powerful and royal and feared, who somehow understood exactly what she meant. You're not alone right now, she said. Kalen's yellow eyes held hers, and something passed between them, not attraction, not romance, but something deeper. Recognition. Two people who'd been told they were monsters sitting in the dark, refusing to believe it. No, he said quietly. Right now, I'm not. The sound of footsteps echoed from somewhere far above. Morning shift. The guards coming to collect her body. Kalen stood. They'll expect to find you dead. What should I tell them? The truth. That I chose not to kill you. Will they believe that? No, but they'll have to accept it. He moved to the door and pulled it open. Light spilled in from the hallway, harsh and yellow and wrong after the soft blue glow of his chamber. Go, before they decide you're a threat. Iris stood. Her legs were stiff from sitting so long. Will I see you again? Do you want to? She thought about her empty room upstairs, about the cold and the silence and the slow certainty of death. She thought about this chamber full of books and stories and a monster who understood what it felt like to be alone. Yes, she said. Something shifted in Kalen's expression. Then come back tonight. They'll let me? They'll let you do whatever I tell them to let you do. I'm still the king, even like this. Iris walked to the door, paused, looked back at him. Thank you, she said. For not killing you? For talking to me like I'm a person. Kalen's eyes closed. When they opened again, they looked almost human. Thank you for doing the same. The guards were waiting in the hall. Their expressions went from bored to shocked when they saw Iris walk out alive, unharmed, still breathing. One of them actually took a step back. Take her to her room, Kalen's voice called from inside the chamber, and tell Margot that she's not to be put back in the rotation. She's mine now. The guard's hand went to his sword. My lord, we can't just... Did I stutter? No, my lord. Then do as I said. They took Iris back upstairs. Neither spoke to her. Both kept glancing at her like she might suddenly grow fangs and attack. When they reached her room, one of them unlocked the door and gestured for her to enter. The other cleared his throat. "How did you survive?" he asked. Iris looked at him, at his scarred face and his dead eyes and his hand still resting on his sword. "I told him a story," she said. Then she walked into her room and closed the door. She made it 3 steps before her legs gave out. She sat on the floor with her back against the wall and shook. Her whole body shook. Every muscle, every bone, every part of her that had held itself together through terror and adrenaline and sheer stupid determination finally let go. She'd survived. She'd walked into the monster's lair and walked back out. And tomorrow night, she was going back. By choice. Iris started laughing. It came out half sob, half hysteria, but she couldn't stop. She laughed until her ribs hurt, and her throat was raw and her eyes were streaming. When she finally stopped, she looked at the book still clutched in her hands. The green cloth cover. The story of the girl who burned down the world. She opened it and began to read. Outside her window, the sun rose over the castle. And for the first time in 22 years, Iris watched it come up and thought maybe, just maybe, she might live to see another one. The whispers started before Iris even made it to breakfast. She felt them following her down the corridor, eyes tracking her movement, voices dropping to hisses as she passed. The other girls pressed themselves against the walls like she carried disease. Some made signs with their fingers, old pack gestures meant to ward off evil spirits. Iris kept her head down and kept walking. Margot was waiting at the bottom of the stairs, arms crossed, her gray dress blending into the gray stone until she looked like part of the castle itself. "You're late," she said. "I wasn't aware I had a schedule." Margot's lips thinned into a bloodless line. "Everyone has a schedule. Breakfast is at dawn. You missed it." Iris's stomach was already eating itself. Had been since she'd woken up an hour ago with her muscles screaming and her throat raw from talking all night, but she kept her face neutral. "I'll remember tomorrow." "Will there be a tomorrow?" Margot's eyes scanned her like she was searching for hidden wounds, for bite marks or claw gouges, or any sign that what had happened in that chamber had left permanent damage. "You went into his chamber last night and came out alive. That doesn't happen." "It happened." "Why?" Iris thought about Kaylin's ruined voice telling her stories until dawn, about the way he'd laughed when she'd chosen books over freedom, about the loneliness in his eyes that matched her own like reflections in a mirror she'd been avoiding her whole life. "I told him a story," she said. Margot stared at her. "A story?" "Yes. The last girl lasted 2 hours. The one before her, 40 minutes. The one before that was dead before we could close the door behind her. We heard the screams through 6 inches of oak." Margot stepped closer. Her breath smelled like old tea and disappointment. "And you're telling me you survived because you told him a story?" "Yes." "What kind of story?" Iris met her gaze. The kind he wanted to hear. Something flickered across Margot's face. Suspicion or fear or maybe just exhaustion so deep it had carved permanent lines around her mouth. "You're either very clever or very stupid. I haven't decided which." "Can't I be both?" "Not for long, not here." Margot turned and started walking, her shoes clicking against stone in a rhythm that sounded like a countdown. "Come. If you're going to live, you need to understand the rules." Iris followed her through corridors that looked different in daylight. Still cold, still gray, but less like a tomb and more like a prison where the inmates had given up trying to escape. They passed other girls in identical gray dresses, all of them keeping their eyes down, their steps quiet, their shoulders hunched like they were trying to make themselves smaller than the space they occupied. None of them looked at Iris, but they all knew she was there. She could feel their awareness like heat on her skin, could hear their breathing change when she passed, could sense them turning to watch her back once she'd moved beyond their line of sight. Margot led her to a room that might have been a library once. Now it was mostly empty shelves and dust thick enough to write your name in. A single table sat in the center with 4 chairs around it, all of them different heights like they'd been collected from various disasters. "Sit," Margot said. Iris sat. The chair wobbled. Margot remained standing, her hands clasped behind her back in a posture that suggested military training. or just years of holding herself together through sheer force of will. You need to understand what you've done. By surviving last night, you've disrupted the order of things. The other girls are afraid of you. The guards don't know what to make of you. And the council... She stopped, breathed, started again. The council is going to want answers. What council? The king's advisors, or what's left of them. They're the ones who've been running the kingdom since the curse took him 6 years ago. They're the ones who instituted the tribute system. They're the ones who decide which girls go into that chamber and when. Margot's hands tightened behind her back until her knuckles went white. And they're not going to be pleased that you're still breathing. Why not? Because it complicates things. The tribute system works because it's predictable. Girls come in, girls die. The monster is fed. The kingdom is protected from his rage spilling out into the countryside. Margot's eyes were hard as the stone around them. You surviving suggests that maybe the system isn't necessary, that maybe there's another way, that maybe all those deaths were for nothing. Is there another way? I don't know, and I don't care to find out. Margot moved to the window. Outside, the sky was the color of old bruises. You'll return to his chamber tonight, and every night after until he tires of you or you make a mistake. When that happens, and it will happen, they always make mistakes eventually, you'll die like all the others. The only question is how long you can postpone it. You seem very certain of that. I've been here 9 years. I've seen 53 girls walk into that chamber. 53 girls who begged or cried or fought or froze. 53 girls who thought they were special or smart or lucky enough to survive. Margot turned to face her. You're the first to walk out. That makes you either a miracle or an anomaly. And anomalies don't last. A knock at the door interrupted them. One of the guards from last night entered. The younger one, with the scared eyes and hands that still shook slightly even when he was trying to look professional. Margot, the council wants to see the girl. Margot's jaw tightened. Now? Now. Tell them she needs rest, she needs food, she needs... Now, Margot. Those were Lord Garrett's exact words. Iris stood before Margot could argue further. It's fine, I'll go. The guard's eyes flicked to her, then away, like looking at her directly might curse him with whatever dark magic had let her survive the unsurvivable. Follow me. Margot caught Iris's arm as she passed. Her fingers were cold and strong. Say as little as possible. Don't volunteer information. Don't try to be clever or funny or charming. Just answer their questions directly and get out as fast as you can. What will they ask me? How you survived, what you did, what he said, what he looked like, whether he showed any signs of weakness or humanity or anything they can use. Margot's grip tightened until it hurt. And whatever you do, don't tell them the truth. What truth? That he's still capable of mercy. That he can still think and speak and reason. Because if they think he can be reasoned with, they'll try to kill him. And if they try to kill him... She stopped, released Iris's arm, left 5 white fingerprints that slowly filled with red. Just don't tell them. The guard led Iris through parts of the castle she hadn't seen before. These corridors had carpet, threadbare and moth-eaten and probably older than everyone currently living in the castle, but carpet nonetheless. The walls were covered in portraits, kings and queens from centuries past, all of them staring down with expressions that ranged from stern to cruel to utterly indifferent to the suffering of anyone beneath their station. She didn't see Kalen among them. She didn't see his father either, though there was a blank space on one wall where a portrait had clearly been removed. The wallpaper was darker there, protected from decades of smoke and sunlight. Someone had taken down the old king's face and never replaced it. They stopped at a door carved from dark wood that had probably cost more than Iris's entire village earned in a year. The guard knocked twice, precisely, like he'd been trained to knock exactly that way and no other. "Enter," a voice called from within. The room beyond was warmer than the rest of the castle. A fire burned in the hearth. Actual flames, actual heat, actual comfort that none of the girls in gray dresses would ever feel. 5 men sat around a table covered in papers and maps and ledgers. All of them were old. All of them wore expressions that suggested they'd forgotten how to smile sometime around the same time the old king had died. The one at the head of the table had silver hair and a face like a closed fist. He gestured to a chair across from them. "Sit." Iris sat. They stared at her. She stared back. The silence stretched. Iris counted her heartbeats, got to 30 before anyone spoke. Finally, the silver-haired man leaned forward. "I am Lord Garrett, Chief Advisor to the Crown. These are my fellow council members, Lord Marcus, Lord Thorne, Lord Varon, and Lord Castellan. We have questions about last night." "All right." "You entered the king's chamber at midnight." "Yes." "And you emerged at dawn, alive, unharmed, not a scratch on you." "Yes." Lord Garrett's fingers drummed once against the table. "How?" Iris thought about Margot's warning, thought about the 5 white fingerprints still fading on her arm, thought about Kaylin's yellow eyes and the way he'd looked at her like she was a person instead of prey. "I don't know," she said. Lord Garrett's eyebrow raised a fraction of an inch. "You don't know." "He chose not to kill me. I don't know why." "Did he speak to you?" "Yes." "In words? Complete sentences? Or just growls and roars?" "Words. Complete sentences. He asked me questions and I answered them." The council members exchanged glances. The one Garrett had identified as Marcus, who had a scar running from his temple to his jaw like something had tried to take his face off and almost succeeded, leaned forward. "What did he say?" Marcus asked. "He asked my name." "And?" "I told him." "That's all? You spent 8 hours in his chamber and the only thing that happened was an exchange of names?" "I didn't say that was the only thing. You asked what he said. That's what he said first." "Don't be clever, girl," Marcus snapped. His hand went to his scarred face, fingers tracing the old wound like it still hurt. "We're not here to play word games. I'm not trying to be clever. I'm trying to answer your questions as accurately as possible." Lord Garrett held up a hand. "What else happened?" Iris chose her words carefully. "He had books, many books. I commented on them. We discussed literature for a while. Eventually he told me I could leave. So I left." "He told you?" "Yes." "He spoke clearly enough to give you permission to leave?" "Yes." "And what was his demeanor? Angry, aggressive, violent?" Iris thought about Kaylin laughing in the darkness, about the brokenness in his voice when he'd admitted he didn't remember killing his father, about the careful way he'd handed her that green book like it was something precious. "Curious," she said. The scarred one, Marcus, stood so fast his chair scraped backward. "That's impossible. The curse stripped him of reason. He's an animal, a beast. He doesn't speak. He doesn't think. He doesn't have curiosity. He kills and eats and sleeps, and that's all he's capable of." "Then I must have imagined it," Iris said. "You're lying." "If I'm lying, how did I survive when 53 other girls didn't?" The question hung in the air like smoke. Lord Garrett's eyes narrowed. "How do you know the number?" Iris's stomach dropped. She'd made a mistake. "Margot told me." "Did she?" Garrett's voice was flat. "What else did Margot tell you?" "That I should answer your questions and leave." Wise advice, though not particularly loyal to the crown. Garrett leaned back in his chair. It creaked under his weight. "Let me be direct, girl. What's your name?" "Iris." "Iris, do you know why we instituted the tribute system?" "To feed the monster. To protect the kingdom. When the prince first transformed, he went on a rampage, killed 17 people in one night. Guards, servants, anyone who got too close. We couldn't stop him, couldn't contain him. The curse made him stronger than any 10 men combined." Garrett's fingers drummed again. "So we made a deal. We'd provide him with regular sustenance. And in return, he'd stay in his chamber and leave the rest of the kingdom alone." "Sustenance," Iris repeated. "You mean girls?" "I mean tribute. Girls who were already dying, already sick, already useless to their families. We gave them a purpose. We gave their deaths meaning." Iris felt her hands clench in her lap. "How generous of you." "Watch your tone." "Or what? You'll send me back down there?" "You're going to do that anyway." Marcus slammed his hand on the table. "You will show respect." "Why should I? You sent me to die. I didn't. Now you're angry that your system didn't work the way you wanted it to." Iris stood. "If you want me to spy on him, if you want me to report back his weaknesses, if you want me to help you kill him, just say so. Don't pretend this is about respect or duty or protecting the kingdom." Silence fell like a hammer. Lord Garrett studied her with new interest. Sit down. I'd rather stand. Sit. Down. Iris sat. Garrett leaned forward. You're right. We do want you to observe him, to note his patterns, his behaviors, any sign that the curse might be weakening or evolving, because if he's regaining his humanity, that changes everything. How? Because humans can be reasoned with, or killed. Curses can't. Garrett's eyes bored into hers. We need to know which one he is, monster or man, curse or king, and you're going to find out for us. And if I refuse, then we'll send you back to your pack. I'm sure your father will be delighted to see you again. I'm sure he'll welcome you back with open arms and absolutely won't punish you for failing your duty to the crown. The threat landed exactly as intended. Iris had no illusions about what would happen if she went back. Her father had sold her once. He wouldn't hesitate to do worse. I understand, she said quietly. Good. Garrett gestured to the guard. Take her back to her room. See that she gets food and rest. She'll need her strength for tonight. The guard opened the door. Iris stood and walked toward it. One more thing, Garrett called after her. She stopped. Didn't turn around. If you develop any attachment to the creature, remember this. He killed his own father, tore him apart with his bare hands. Whatever he seems like when he's talking about books and stories, that's what he really is. A patricide. A monster. A thing that deserves its curse. Iris walked out without responding. The guard escorted her back through the corridors in silence. Neither spoke. The portraits on the walls stared down at them with dead eyes and judgmental expressions. When they reached her room, the guard unlocked the door and stepped back. Wait, Iris said. He froze. What happened to the king? The real king, I mean. Kaylin's father. The guard's jaw worked. A muscle jumped beneath his ear. He's dead. I know that. How did he die? Why do you care? Because I'm trying to understand. If I'm going to keep surviving, I need to understand what I'm dealing with. The guard looked at her for a long moment. Then he glanced down the corridor, checking for listeners, for other guards or servants, or anyone who might report this conversation back to the council. The prince killed him, he said quietly. That's what triggered the curse. No one knows why. They were fine one day, arguing but fine, and the next morning the king was dead and the prince was... He gestured vaguely at nothing. What he is now. The council took control immediately, told everyone the king had died of a sudden illness and the prince had disappeared on a journey and wouldn't be returning. It was easier than the truth. What is the truth? That we're ruled by ghosts and monsters and men too scared to admit they don't know what they're doing. The guard's hand tightened on his sword hilt. That we've been sacrificing girls for 6 years to keep something contained that maybe didn't need to be contained in the first place. That maybe the real monsters aren't the ones with claws. He stepped back. Get some rest. You'll need it. The door closed. The lock turned with a sound like finality. Iris sat on her bed and tried to process what she'd learned. Kaylin had killed his own father. That was the crime. That was what he couldn't remember. That was the murder that had triggered a curse powerful enough to trap him in a form between man and beast for 6 years and counting. She thought about telling him, about giving him back the memory that had been stolen as part of his punishment. Then she thought about what that knowledge might do to him, about the weight of knowing you'd killed the man who raised you, the king who trusted you, the father who, however distant or hard or difficult, had been your father. Some truths were worse than curses. Some doors, once opened, could never be closed again. The day crawled past like something wounded. Iris tried to sleep but couldn't. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the council's faces, saw Marcus's scar, and Garrett's calculating gaze, and the way they'd all looked at her like she was a tool to be used and discarded once her usefulness ran out. Around midday, someone slid a tray under her door. Bread that was only 1 day stale instead of 3. Cheese that didn't smell quite as sour. Water that was almost clear. Iris ate mechanically, tasting nothing. She was trapped between 2 kinds of monster now. The one who'd spared her life and treated her like a person, and the ones who wanted to use her to end his. She thought about her sister, about Sarah, who was probably sleeping in Iris's old bed right now, wearing Iris's old dresses, living the life Iris would have had if she'd been born right. Sarah wouldn't have hesitated. Sarah would have picked a side and stuck to it. Sarah would have survived. But Iris wasn't Sarah. Iris was the girl who'd spent her whole life trying to be useful and had ended up here, in a castle full of death, with a choice that would define whether she lived or died. Help the council kill Kaelin, or help Kaelin survive the council. Neither option was good. Both would probably get her killed. But one felt less like betrayal. When darkness finally came, the guards arrived without knocking. Just the sound of the lock turning and the door swinging open and two guards silhouetted against torchlight. "Time," one of them said. Iris stood and followed. The walk to Kaelin's chamber felt different tonight. The corridors seemed to stretch longer with each step. The shadows pressed closer. The temperature dropped degree by degree until Iris's breath came out in white clouds. Or maybe she was just more aware of what she was walking into. More aware of the choice she'd made without quite admitting it to herself. The guards unlocked the massive door and stepped back. Iris walked through. The door closed behind her with a sound like a tomb ceiling. Darkness. Complete and total. Then light bloomed from the walls. That same pale blue glow that made everything look underwater and dreamlike. Kaelin was sitting in the center of the room, surrounded by books stacked in towers that looked like they might collapse at any moment. He looked up when she entered. "You came back," he said. His voice still sounded ruined, still sounded like something that had been broken and never properly healed, but there was something else in it now, something that might have been relief. "You told me to," Iris said. "I gave you permission. That's different from an order. You could have stayed away." Iris moved closer, stepping carefully around book piles. "If I hadn't come, what would have happened? I would have assumed you'd decided books weren't worth risking your life for." "Are they?" Kaelin's expression shifted into something that might have been a smile if his face could still make that shape properly. "Ask me again in a few decades." Iris sat in the chair across from him, the same one from last night. It still smelled like old leather and dust and paper slowly decomposing. "The council summoned me this morning," she said. Kaelin went very still. Every muscle in that massive body tensed. His claws scraped against the stone floor with a sound like knives on a whetstone. "Did they?" It wasn't a question. "They wanted to know how I survived, what we talked about, whether you showed any signs of weakness or humanity they could exploit." "What did you tell them?" "As little as possible. That you asked my name, that we discussed books, that you let me leave." "Smart." Kaelin set down the book he'd been holding. His claws left small indentations in the leather binding. "They want me dead. They have for years. The only thing stopping them is that they haven't figured out how to do it without bringing the entire kingdom down with me." "Why would killing you destroy the kingdom?" "Because the curse is tied to the throne, to the bloodline. If I die without an heir, the crown passes to the council by default, and the curse passes with it." His yellow eyes met hers. "They'd rather keep me alive and contained down here than risk becoming what I am. Risk spending the rest of their lives as monsters trapped in darkness." "Could they? Become what you are?" "The curse doesn't discriminate. It takes whatever form will cause the most suffering for the individual." Kaelin's claws flexed. "For me, it was this. Trapped between forms, unable to be fully human or fully wolf. For them, it would be something else, something tailored to their specific nightmares." Iris thought about Marcus's scarred face, about the way he'd touched it like it still caused him pain years later, about Garrett's cold calculations and the way he'd looked at her like she was numbers on a ledger. "They want me to spy on you," she said, "to report back anything that might help them find a way to break the curse or kill you safely without triggering the bloodline transfer." "Will you?" The question hung between them like a blade. Iris could lie, could say no and mean yes, could play both sides and hope to survive long enough to escape, could do what Sarah would do, pick the winning side and never look back. But she'd spent her whole life lying about who she was and what she wanted, and it had never saved her from anything. "I don't know," she said honestly. "I don't know you well enough to know if you deserve their hatred, if you deserve this curse, if you deserve any of what's happened to you." Kaelin laughed. It was harsh and bitter and broken. "At least you're honest." "It's all I have left." "Then let me be honest too." He leaned forward. The blue light caught in his yellow eyes and turned them almost green. "I killed my father. I don't remember doing it, but I know I did. The curse wouldn't have taken hold otherwise. The magic doesn't punish the innocent. So whatever they think I deserve, whatever you think I deserve, they're probably right. Do you want to remember?
Every day. Why?
Because not knowing is worse than knowing. I live with this. He gestured at his body, at the fur and claws in wrong proportions, and I don't even know why. I don't know if I was defending myself or defending someone else, or if I was angry or drunk, or if I just... He stopped. His voice had gotten too loud, too raw. I don't know, and that's the real curse. Not the body, not the isolation, not even the hunger. It's living with the knowledge that you did something terrible and having no memory of it, no context, no reason, just the certainty that you deserve every second of suffering. Iris understood that in a way she hadn't expected to. She'd spent years not understanding why her family had rejected her, why her mate had walked away, why she'd been born wrong. Not knowing had eaten at her more than any answer could have. The guard told me your father died and you transformed the same day, she said. Yes. No warning, no gradual change, no time to prepare. One moment I was human, the next I wasn't. Kaylin's claws scraped against the floor again, leaving white gouges in the stone. I woke up in this chamber with blood on my hands, literal blood, dried and cracking, and no memory of how it got there. The council came down within the hour, told me what I'd done, told me I was cursed, told me I'd spend the rest of my life down here in the dark, paying for my sins. And you just accepted that? What choice did I have? Iris heard her own words from yesterday echoed back at her. You could have fought. I tried. I tore apart 17 people trying to escape. His voice went flat. Dead. Guards, servants, a cook who'd made my favorite meals since I was 6 years old. I killed them all and didn't even realize I was doing it until I came back to myself and found their bodies. The weight of that confession settled over the room like snow. Iris should have been horrified, should have run screaming, should have called for the guards and begged them to kill this monster before it killed her. But she wasn't horrified. She was sad. So you stopped fighting, she said. I stopped fighting and started reading. If I couldn't change what I was, at least I could change what I knew, learn things, understand things, try to become something other than just teeth and claws and hunger. How many books have you read? All of them. Some of them 7, 8, 10 times. He stood and moved to one of the shelves, pulled down a volume bound in cracked red leather. This one I've read 9 times. It's about a queen who pretended to be mad so her enemies would underestimate her. By the time they realized she'd been playing them all along, she'd already consolidated power and eliminated everyone who'd ever doubted her. Did it work? In the book, yes. She lived to old age and died in her sleep surrounded by grandchildren. Kaylin set the book down. In reality, I don't know. I tried pretending to be mindless for a while. Pretended to be exactly the monster they thought I was. Growled instead of speaking. Killed everything they sent down here without hesitation. Played the part perfectly. What happened? Nothing changed. They still sent the girls. I still had to choose who lived and who died. The curse still controlled me. His shoulders slumped. Being a monster doesn't get easier just because you stop pretending you're not one. Iris stood and moved closer to him, close enough to see the individual hairs in his fur, close enough to see the human shape still trying to emerge from beneath the curse. The council said you went on a rampage when you first transformed, killed 17 people in one night. Yes. And then what? Then they locked me down here, told the kingdom the prince had disappeared, started sending tribute. How often? Every 3 days at first, then weekly, then only when the hunger got too strong to control. Kaylin's voice dropped to barely a whisper. I tried to fight it, tried to resist, but the curse is stronger than willpower. What does the hunger feel like? He looked at her sharply. Why? Because I need to understand. I need to know if tonight's the night you lose control and I don't make it out. It's not. How can you be sure? Because I fed 2 days ago, a stag. Took me 3 hours to track it through the forest, another hour to bring it down. The guards hauled the carcass away before dawn. His voice was completely flat now, emotionless, like he was describing something that had happened to someone else. I have another week, maybe 2, before the hunger comes back strong enough to be dangerous. And if you can't hunt, then the guards bring me one of the girls. The ones who are sick or injured or dying anyway. The ones who wouldn't have survived much longer in the regular tribute rotation. He sat down heavily. The chair creaked under his weight. I tell myself that makes it better. That at least I'm ending suffering instead of creating it. It doesn't. It never does. Iris absorbed this, tried to reconcile the creature in front of her with the monster the council had described, tried to figure out which version was true. Maybe both. Maybe neither. Maybe the truth was somewhere in between, in the gray space where humans and monsters overlapped and became indistinguishable. The girl in the story, she said. The one who burned down the world. Did she deserve what happened to her? Did she deserve the suffering that made her into someone capable of burning things down? No. Did the people who hurt her deserve what she did to them in revenge? Kalen was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was softer than she'd ever heard it. The book doesn't answer that question. It ends with her standing in the ashes of her enemies' kingdoms, alone, victorious, and absolutely empty inside. Whether she deserved her revenge or they deserved their destruction, the book doesn't say. It just shows you what happens when pain turns into power. And what do you think? Do you think she was right to burn it all down? I think deserving has nothing to do with it. I think the world doesn't care what we deserve. It just cares what we do with what we're given. His eyes met hers. And what were you given, Iris? The question caught her off guard. Nothing, she said. I was given nothing. No wolf, no strength, no value to anyone. And what did you do with that nothing? I survived. Exactly. Kalen's expression shifted. You took nothing and turned it into 22 years of life. You took rejection and turned it into resilience. You took a father's betrayal and a pack's cruelty and a mate's abandonment, and you're still here, still standing, still choosing to come back into this chamber night after night, even though you know what I am. What are you? Exactly what you are, someone who was given nothing and refused to let that define them. Iris felt something crack open in her chest, something that had been locked down for so long she'd forgotten it was there. They want me to help them kill you, she said. I know. They think you're getting too human, too dangerous. They want me to find your weaknesses and report back. Will you? Iris looked at him, at the monster who read books and told stories and understood loneliness in a way no one else ever had. At the king who'd been cursed for a crime he couldn't remember and had spent 6 years trying to become something other than what the curse wanted him to be. At the creature who'd spared her life for no reason except that she'd been honest. No, she said. The word hung in the air between them. Kalen's eyes widened. Iris, I won't help them kill you. I won't spy on you. I won't betray you to people who've been sacrificing girls for 6 years just to avoid dealing with a problem they helped create. They'll send you back to your pack. They'll punish you. Let them. You'll die. Maybe, but I'll die on my own terms, not theirs. Kalen stood, moved toward her, stopped just close enough that she could feel the heat coming off his massive frame. Why? He asked. Why would you choose me over them? Over safety? Over survival? Iris thought about her answer carefully, then decided to stop thinking and just tell the truth. Because you're the only person who's ever looked at me and seen something worth keeping alive, she said. Kalen's hand, massive, clawed, dangerous, reached out slowly, gave her time to pull away. When she didn't, he touched her face with surprising gentleness. Then stay, he said. Stay here, with me, with the books and the darkness and the monster. Stay, and I'll keep you safe from them. You can't protect me from the council. I'm still the king, curse or no curse, monster or no monster. I'm still the king and they can't touch you without my permission. They'll find a way. Then we'll find a way to stop them. His claw traced her jaw. She should have been terrified. She wasn't. You're not alone anymore, Iris. Neither of us is. The door above them shook. Dawn was coming. The guards would arrive soon. Kalen pulled his hand back. Go, before they come down and see us like this. Like what? Like two people who've decided to burn the world down together. Iris smiled. It felt strange on her face. She hadn't smiled in weeks. Is that what we're doing? I don't know, but I'm willing to find out if you are. The sound of footsteps echoed from above. Iris moved to the door, stopped, looked back. I'll need books, she said. If I'm staying down here, I'll need something to read between visits. Kaelin laughed, really laughed. The sound filled the chamber and chased away some of the darkness. Take whatever you want, he said. Everything here is yours now. The door opened. Light spilled in. The guards stood waiting, expressions shifting from bored to shocked when they saw Iris alive and unharmed for the second morning in a row. Take her to her room, Kaelin called from inside the chamber. His voice had shifted into something closer to a growl, the voice of a king giving orders. And tell Lord Garrett that if anyone touches her, if anyone threatens her, if anyone so much as looks at her wrong, I'll remember how to leave this chamber, and I'll visit him personally. Both guards went pale. Yes, my lord, one stammered. They led Iris back upstairs in absolute silence. When they reached her room, one of them unlocked the door with shaking hands. How do you do it? The other guard asked. How do you survive him? Iris looked at him, at his young face and his scared eyes and his complete inability to understand what she'd found in that chamber. I don't survive him, she said. I choose him. There's a difference. She walked into her room and closed the door, made it 3 steps before her legs gave out. She sat on the floor with her back against the wall, arms wrapped around her knees, and let herself shake. Let herself feel the terror and the exhilaration and the absolute insanity of what she'd just done. She'd chosen the monster over the men. She'd chosen honesty over survival. She'd chosen Kaelin, and tomorrow night she'd do it again. And tomorrow night she'd do it again. Except tomorrow night never came. Iris woke to hands yanking her from bed, to torchlight burning her eyes, to Margot's voice cutting through the confusion like a blade. Get up, now, don't speak, don't fight, just move. 3 guards surrounded her, not the young ones from before. These were older, harder, the kind who'd stopped seeing girls as people years ago. One grabbed her arm hard enough to leave bruises. What's happening? Iris demanded. I said don't speak. Margot's face was stone. You're being moved. Council's orders. They dragged her into the hallway. Other girls watched from cracked doorways, their faces pale in the torchlight. None of them met Iris's eyes. None of them would help even if they could. The guards hauled her upstairs instead of down, higher into the castle, away from Kaelin's chamber, away from the one place she'd felt like something other than refuse. Where are you taking me? The guard's grip tightened. North Tower. You'll stay there until the council decides what to do with you. I haven't done anything wrong. You've disrupted the order. That's enough. They shoved her into a room half the size of her previous one. No bed, no chair, just stone walls and a window too narrow for anything but light. The door slammed, the lock turned. Iris pressed her hands against the wood and screamed Kaelin's name until her throat bled. No one came. 3 days passed like open wounds. They brought her water once a day. No food, no explanation, no word from Margot or the guards or anyone who might tell her what was happening. On the 4th day, the lock turned. Lord Garrett entered alone. He looked at her, at the way she'd curled into the corner, at the hollows forming under her eyes, at the tremor in her hands that wouldn't stop. You're dying, he observed. Good eye. Defiance doesn't suit you anymore, girl. You're too weak for it. He pulled the door closed behind him. I'm going to give you a choice. A real one, this time. I don't want your choices. You'll want this one. Garrett sat on the floor across from her, made himself seem less threatening. It didn't work. We know about your arrangement with the creature. We know you've been spending your nights talking instead of screaming. We know he's shared things with you. Thoughts, memories, weaknesses. He hasn't. Don't lie. We've had girls' last hours before. Never 2 nights in a row. Never walking out unharmed and smiling. Garrett's eyes were cold as winter. You've gotten close to him, closer than anyone has in 6 years, and that makes you valuable. I won't betray him. I'm not asking you to. I'm asking you to save him. That stopped her. Garrett leaned forward. The curse is killing him, slowly but inevitably. Every month he becomes less human, more beast. Another year, maybe 2, and there won't be anything left of the prince who read books and asked questions, just hunger and rage and claws. You're lying. Ask him yourself. Ask him if he's noticed changes, if the words come harder now than they did a year ago, if the hunger lasts longer, if he's starting to forget things that used to be easy to remember. Garrett's voice dropped. The curse doesn't stop, Iris. It consumes. And eventually, there will be nothing left to consume. Iris's stomach turned to ice. She thought about Kalen's ruined voice, about the way he'd paused sometimes mid-sentence, searching for words, about the careful way he moved, like he was constantly fighting his own body. What do you want from me? There's a way to break the curse. We've known about it for years. We just haven't been able to execute it. Why not? Because it requires someone the cursed one trusts, someone he'd let close enough to. Garrett stopped. We need you to do something for him. Something he can't do himself. What? Garrett pulled a small vial from his coat. The liquid inside was black as ink, thick as honey. This is distilled nightshade mixed with grave root and 3 other ingredients I won't name. 1 drop will put him to sleep. 3 drops will keep him unconscious for hours, long enough for us to bring in someone who can break the curse. Iris stared at the vial. You want me to poison him? I want you to save him. The curse can only be broken while he's unconscious, while his defenses are down. We've tried before with the tribute girls, but they were too afraid, too eager to escape. They couldn't get close enough to make him drink. Garrett held out the vial. But you could. He trusts you. He'd drink from your hand. And then what? You break the curse and he goes back to being prince and everything's fine? Not fine. Different. Better. Garrett's face was unreadable. He'll be human again. He'll remember what he did. He'll have to answer for his crimes. But he'll be alive. Himself. Whole. Iris looked at the vial. At the promise it represented. Kalen restored. Human. Free of the curse eating him alive. What happens to me after? You'll be released. Sent home with compensation for your service. Your family will be told you served the crown with honor. I don't believe you. Smart. Garrett's mouth twitched. But what choice do you have? Stay here and starve while he forgets you exist? Or help him and hope for the best? He set the vial on the floor between them and stood. Tonight. If you want to save him, it has to be tonight. The moon is right. The curse breaker is ready. Everything is aligned. He moved to the door. Or don't. Let him rot down there until there's nothing left but the monster. See if I care. The door closed. The vial sat on the floor like a question Iris didn't know how to answer. They brought her food an hour later. Real food. Bread that wasn't stale. Cheese that didn't smell like death. Even a piece of dried fruit. She ate mechanically, tasting nothing. The vial sat in her pocket now, heavy as lead. When darkness came, different guards arrived. Not the young scared ones or the old brutal ones. These were professional, silent. They unlocked her door and gestured for her to follow. They took her down to Kalen's chamber without a word. The massive door stood before her like always. But this time, her hands were shaking as she pushed it open. Darkness. Then blue light. Kalen was across the room, surrounded by books. He looked up when she entered, and his entire body went rigid. Iris. He was across the space in 3 strides, stopping just short of touching her. Where have you been? I thought... I'm fine. You're not fine. You're shaking. You've lost weight. What did they do to you? Nothing. They just moved me to a different room. His eyes narrowed. Liar. I'm fine, she repeated. But her voice cracked on the second word, and suddenly she wasn't fine at all. She was breaking. 3 days of isolation and fear and hunger catching up all at once. Kalen caught her before she fell. His massive arms wrapped around her carefully, like she was made of glass. Like she might shatter if he held too tight. I've got you, he said into her hair. I've got you. Iris pressed her face against his fur and let herself cry. Let herself be weak for the first time in days. Let herself take comfort from a monster because the monsters had been kinder than the men. When she could breathe again, she pulled back. I need to tell you something. All right. The council wants me to help them break your curse. Kalen went very still. How? Iris pulled out the vial, showed him the black liquid inside. They want me to give you this. It'll put you to sleep. While you're unconscious, they'll bring someone in to break the curse. You'll be human again. Kalen stared at the vial. And you're telling me this because I won't do it without your permission. I won't trick you. I won't drug you and hand you over to them like... She stopped. Like cargo. They'll punish you if you refuse. I know. They might kill you. I know that too. Kaylin took the vial from her hand, held it up to the blue light. The liquid inside looked like concentrated night. Do you know what this is? He asked quietly. Poison, nightshade and grave root and other things Garrett wouldn't name. It's death. 3 drops would put me to sleep. 6 drops would stop my heart. He looked at her. They're not trying to break the curse, Iris. They're trying to kill me. The room tilted. But Garrett said, Garrett has been trying to kill me for 6 years. This is just his latest attempt. And this time, he's using you to do it. Kaylin set the vial down carefully. There's no curse breaker waiting. There's no way to break the curse while I'm unconscious. The only way to break it is if I die without an heir and the throne passes to the council. But he said it was consuming you, that you're becoming less human every day. That part is true. The curse is getting stronger. I can feel it. Kaylin's hand went to his chest. A year ago, I could stay human-shaped for hours. Now I can barely manage minutes. The beast is winning. Eventually, it'll win completely. Then what do we do? We? Kaylin's expression softened. There's no we, Iris. You need to leave, tonight, before they realize you told me. I'll tell the guards you gave me the poison, that you did what they asked. They'll let you go. I'm not leaving. You have to. Why? So I can go back to a pack that doesn't want me? So I can spend the rest of my life wondering what happened to you? Iris grabbed his massive hand in both of hers. I chose you, remember? I chose this. You chose books and stories. You didn't choose to die for a lost cause. You're not a lost cause. Yes, I am. The curse is permanent. There's no breaking it, no cure, no way out except death. His voice was hollow. I've accepted that. You need to accept it too. Iris looked at him, at the intelligence burning behind those yellow eyes, at the careful way he held himself, always fighting the beast inside, at the thousands of books surrounding them, his attempt to stay human through knowledge since he couldn't stay human through flesh. An idea sparked in the back of her mind. Dangerous. Probably stupid, but possible. What if there is a way? She said slowly. There isn't. What if the council's been lying about more than just the poison? What if they've been lying about the curse itself? Kaylin's eyes narrowed. What are you thinking? You said the curse consumes, that it's making you less human, more beast. But you're still here, still thinking, still reading and talking and being you. Iris pulled a book from the nearest stack at random. What if the way to fight the curse isn't to break it? What if it's to outlast it? That's not how curses work. How do you know? Have you ever met anyone else who's been cursed? No, but then maybe the council's been feeding you their version of how it works. Maybe they've been telling you it's permanent because they want you to give up, to stop fighting, to become the monster they need you to be so they can justify keeping you down here. Kaylin stared at her. Even if you're right, even if the curse can be outlasted, how? I've been fighting it for 6 years and it only gets stronger. Because you've been fighting it alone, with nothing but books to keep you human. Iris moved closer. What if you had something else? Someone else? You can't stay down here forever. You need food, sunlight, space to move. Build me a library. The words hung in the air between them. Kaylin blinked. What? You're the king. You still have authority even if you can't leave this chamber. Order them to build me a proper library down here, with shelves and light and a bed, a place where I can stay, where we can both stay. Iris's heart was racing, but her voice stayed steady. If the curse feeds on isolation, on you losing your humanity, then we starve it, we give it nothing, we stay human together. Iris, that's insane. So is everything else about this situation. At least this way we're choosing the insanity instead of having it forced on us. Kaylin was quiet for a long moment. She could see him thinking, processing, weighing options. They'll never agree to it, he said finally. They don't have to agree. They have to obey. You're still the king. A king they've been trying to kill for 6 years. A king they're too afraid to kill directly because of what happens to them if you die. Iris grabbed his hand again. Use that. Use their fear. Make them build the library or threaten to stop eating. Threaten to let the curse consume you completely and force the crown onto them. A slow smile spread across Kaylin's face. It was terrible and beautiful at the same time. You're more dangerous than I gave you credit for, he said. I had good teachers. A pack that taught me how to survive when everyone wants you gone. A sister who taught me how to smile while planning revenge. A monster who taught me that the truth is the sharpest weapon. She smiled back. And now I'm going to teach the council what happens when you back a worthless girl into a corner. You're not worthless. I know, that's what makes this fun. Kaelin laughed, really laughed. The sound filled the chamber and chased away the last of the shadows. Then his expression shifted. The poison. We still need to deal with Garrett's expectations. Iris looked at the vial on the floor. What if we use it? Not on you, on them. Explain. They think I'm loyal to them. That I'll poison you and stand back while they finish you off. What if we let them think that? What if I tell them I did it, that you drank the poison and collapsed, and when they come down here to claim victory? She stopped. What happens to people who enter your chamber uninvited? Kaelin's smile turned predatory. They don't leave. Perfect. They planned it out over the next hour. Every detail, every contingency. Iris would tell Garrett the poison worked, that Kaelin was unconscious. The council would come down to verify, to finish the job, to finally rid themselves of the cursed prince, and they'd find out exactly how dangerous a cornered king could be. When dawn came and the guards knocked, Iris walked out with the empty vial in her hand. It's done, she told them. He drank it. He's unconscious. The younger guard's eyes widened. Are you certain? I watched him collapse. He's not getting up. They took her back upstairs to Garrett's study. The old man was waiting, along with Marcus and the other council members. Show me, Garrett demanded. Iris held out the empty vial. Garrett took it, held it up to the light, smiled. Good girl. I knew you'd make the right choice. He turned to Marcus. Gather the guards. We go down now, before the poison wears off. What about the girl? Marcus asked. Lock her in her room. We'll decide what to do with her after we've confirmed the beast is dead. They grabbed Iris's arms. She didn't fight, didn't struggle, just let them drag her away while Garrett and his council prepared to walk into a trap. The guards threw her into her old room and locked the door. Iris counted to 100. Then she started screaming. Fire! Fire in the north wing! Someone help! It took 3 minutes for someone to unlock her door. The moment it opened, Iris ran. Not toward safety, toward the stairs leading down to Kaelin's chamber. She had to see this. Had to watch the council's faces when they realized what they'd walked into. She reached the main corridor just as the screaming started. Not her screaming, theirs. The massive door to Kaelin's chamber stood open. Light poured out. Not the soft blue glow, but something brighter, harsher. Torchlight. And inside, chaos. Garrett's voice rose above the others. Fall back! Everyone fall back! Iris crept closer, peered through the doorway. Kaelin stood in the center of the room, surrounded by 6 guards and all 5 council members. But he wasn't alone. Books floated in the air around him, hundreds of them, moving like birds, like weapons, forming a barrier between him and the men who'd come to kill him. You came to murder your king, Kaelin said. His voice was different, stronger, more human than Iris had ever heard it. In his own chamber, while he slept, like cowards. You're not the king, Garrett spat. You're a monster, an abomination. You killed your own father. I know what I did. The books moved faster, pages tearing free and swirling like snow. I remember now, all of it. You want to know why I killed him? Silence fell. Because he was going to kill you, Kaelin continued. His eyes found Garrett. All of you. He'd discovered your embezzling, your schemes, your plans to sell the kingdom piece by piece to neighboring powers. He was going to execute the entire council. Garrett's face went white. So you came to me, Kaelin said, told me my father had gone mad, that he was planning to destroy the kingdom, that the only way to save everyone was to stop him before he could act. His laugh was bitter. I believed you. I confronted him. We fought. I killed him. And the moment his blood hit the floor, the curse took hold. You're lying, Marcus said, but his voice shook. Am I? Ask yourself why the curse specified patricide, why it took the form it did, why it stole my memory but left me just human enough to suffer. Kaelin moved forward. The books moved with him. Because the curse wasn't punishment from the gods. It was punishment from you. You used blood magic to bind me, to trap me, to make sure I'd never remember what you'd made me do. Iris's hands flew to her mouth. It all made sense now. The council's desperation to keep him contained, their insistence that the curse was permanent, their willingness to sacrifice girls for years just to maintain the fiction. They'd created the monster to hide their own crimes. Even if that's true, Garrett said, you're still cursed, still trapped, still dying slowly down here while we rule above. Not anymore. Kalen's voice dropped to something that was half growl, half laugh. You see, you made a mistake. You told Iris the curse was consuming me, that I was losing my humanity day by day, and she, clever girl that she is, figured out how to reverse it. That's impossible, is it? The curse feeds on isolation, on loss of humanity, on forgetting who you are beneath the beast. Kalen gestured at the book still swirling around him. But I've spent 6 years reading, learning, maintaining my mind even as my body changed. And then Iris came, talked to me. Reminded me I was still a person worth talking to, worth saving. The books began to glow, soft at first, then brighter. Blue light like the walls, but concentrated, powerful. The curse is breaking, Kalen said. Not because of poison or magic or anything you could control, because I refused to let it win. Because someone refused to see me as a monster. His body shuddered. The fur began to recede. Claws shortened. The wrong proportions started to correct themselves. It was working. The curse was breaking, and the council members were backing toward the door. Stop them! Kalen shouted. But Iris was already moving. She slammed the massive door closed and threw the bolt. No! Garrett lunged for her. Let us out! Why? So you can run? So you can hide from what you've done? Iris's voice was ice. You sent 53 girls to die. You cursed your own prince. You've been ruling through lies and murder for 6 years. We did what was necessary. You did what was convenient, and now you're going to answer for it. The blue light exploded outward. When Iris could see again, Kalen stood before her. Human. Completely, wholly human. Dark hair instead of fur. Skin instead of scales. Hands instead of claws. He was tall and lean and beautiful in a way that made her chest ache. But his eyes were the same, still yellow, still burning with intelligence and anger, and something that might have been hope. Iris, he said. His voice was smooth now, perfect. Open the door. She did. The council members stumbled out, followed by their guards. All of them staring at the prince who'd been a monster 5 minutes ago and was now standing before them looking every inch a king. You're all under arrest, Kalen said calmly, for treason, for conspiracy, for the murder of my father and the attempted murder of your rightful king. You have no proof, Garrett snarled. I have my memories. I have your confession. And I have 53 dead girls who deserved better than to die for your schemes. Kalen gestured to the guards. Take them to the dungeons, all of them. And send for the royal magistrate. We're going to do this properly. The guards hesitated. These were men who'd been taking orders from the council for 6 years. Men who'd participated in the tribute system. Men who had blood on their hands, too. Now, Kalen said, and something in his voice made them move. They grabbed the council members, dragged them away still protesting, still denying, still trying to maintain the fiction that they'd been serving the kingdom. When they were gone, Kalen turned to Iris. You saved me, he said. You saved yourself. I just gave you a reason to. That's the same thing. He moved closer. Close enough that she could see he was shaking too. I don't know how to be human anymore. I don't know how to rule. I don't know how to do any of this without the curse as an excuse. Then we'll figure it out together. Iris reached for his hand, found it warm and solid and real. You're not alone, remember? Kalen's fingers closed around hers. Above them, the castle was erupting into chaos. Guards shouting, servants running, the news spreading like wildfire. The prince was human again. The council was arrested. Everything was changing. But down here in the chamber full of books and blue light and broken curses, 2 people who'd been thrown away by everyone else stood together and chose not to let go. What happens now? Iris asked. Kalen pulled her closer. Now we burn down the world that tried to bury us and build a new one from the ashes. Somewhere above them, someone started screaming, not in fear this time, in rage. The council had allies, had supporters, had people who'd benefited from their rule and wouldn't give it up without a fight. Kaylin's eyes met Iris's. "Are you ready?" he asked. She thought about her father who'd sold her pack who'd rejected her sister who'd watched her leave without saying goodbye. She thought about the 53 girls who'd died in this chamber while men played politics with their lives. She thought about the council members who'd cursed their own prince and spent 6 years maintaining the lie. "Yes," Iris said. "I'm ready." The screaming got closer, and in the darkness of the chamber, the girl who'd been worthless and the king who'd been cursed prepared to face a kingdom that didn't want either of them to survive. But they'd survived worse, and this time, they weren't alone. But they'd survived worse, and this time, they weren't alone. The screaming resolved into words as footsteps thundered down the stone stairs. Multiple voices, angry and afraid in equal measure. "Can't just arrest the entire council." "Treason," he said. "Treason. That's madness." "Saw him. I saw the prince. He's human again." Kaylin's hand tightened on Iris's. "Stay behind me." "No." "Iris, I didn't survive 3 days of starvation and your curse and the council's poison to hide now." She moved to stand beside him instead of behind him. "Whatever's coming, we face it together." A group of men burst into view at the bottom of the stairs. Merchants by their clothing, wealthy ones, the kind who'd grown fat on council contracts and favorable trade agreements. Behind them, more guards, at least 20. The lead merchant stopped when he saw Kaylin. His face went from red to white in the space of a heartbeat. "Your Highness," he stammered, "we heard, that is, we were told, that I'd arrested the council for treason." "Yes, that part is accurate." Kaylin's voice was calm, almost pleasant, the tone of a man discussing the weather instead of the complete upheaval of a kingdom's power structure. "Did you need something?" "The council, Lord Garrett specifically, he's been running the kingdom for 6 years. You can't just..." "Can't just what? Arrest traitors? Execute my authority as the rightful king?" Kaylin took a step forward. The merchants took 2 steps back. "Tell me, Master Aldrich, how much has the council paid you over the years to look the other way while they embezzled crown funds?" The merchant's mouth opened, closed. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Of course you don't. Just like you don't know about the weapons shipments to Valdran, or the grain stores sold to Estrin at below-market rates while our own people starved, or the silver mines leased to foreign interests for a fraction of their worth." Kaylin's eyes were hard. "Should I continue?" Silence fell like a blade. One of the other merchants cleared his throat. "Your Highness, with respect, you've been indisposed for 6 years. The kingdom needed leadership. The council provided stability. The council provided theft, corruption, murder." Kaylin gestured at Iris. "They sent 53 girls to die in this chamber. 53. Tell me, how many of them were daughters of people who opposed the council's policies? How many were sent here not as tribute but as punishment?" The merchants exchanged glances. "All of them," Iris said quietly. "Every single one." Kaylin looked at her. "How do you know?" "Because Margot told me. The first night. She said the tribute system was predictable, that they chose girls who were already dying, already useless." Iris's voice shook but held. "But that was a lie. They chose girls whose families asked too many questions, who saw too much, who might have exposed what the council was doing." "That's speculation," Aldrich protested. "Is it? Then why was I sent here?" Iris stepped forward. "My father is a pack beta. Not wealthy, but not poor either. Not dying, not sick. Just politically inconvenient because he'd started asking why our tribute payments kept increasing while kingdom services decreased." The silence stretched. One of the guards, not one of the older brutal ones, someone younger, someone who looked like he still remembered what having a conscience felt like, spoke up. "My sister was sent 3 years ago. She'd seen Lord Marcus meeting with Valdrin representatives. She told our father. A week later she was tribute." His voice cracked. "They said it was random selection, that her name came up in the lottery." "There was no lottery," Kaylin said. "There never was. The council chose who lived and who died based on what served them best." Another guard stepped forward, then another, each one with a story. A sister, a cousin, a friend who'd seen something or said something or just been in the wrong place when the council needed to make someone disappear. The merchants backed toward the stairs. "We didn't know," Aldrich said. "We were just doing business." with traitors, with murderers, with men who curse their own prince to hide their crimes. Kalen's voice dropped to something dangerous. And now you're going to help me fix it, or you're going to join them in the dungeons. Your choice. Aldrich's face worked through several expressions before settling on resignation. What do you need? Records. Every contract the council signed in the last 6 years, every payment, every agreement, every piece of paper with their names on it. I want to know exactly how much they stole and who helped them do it. That will take weeks. Then you'd better start now. The merchants fled up the stairs like their clothes were on fire. The guards remained. 20 men who'd been following council orders for 6 years, who'd dragged girls to their deaths, who'd locked Iris in the North Tower and let her starve, who were now looking at their restored king and waiting for judgment. Kalen studied them. How many of you knew about the corruption, the embezzling, the real reason for the tribute system? Silence. I'm not asking to punish you. I'm asking because I need to know who I can trust. Kalen's voice was level. If you knew and participated willingly, step to the left. If you were following orders without knowing the full truth, step to the right. If you want to lie to me, stay where you are and see what happens. Slowly, reluctantly, the guards began to move. 5 stepped left. 12 stepped right. 3 stayed frozen in the center. Kalen nodded. The 5 on the left will be arrested and tried alongside the council. The 12 on the right will continue serving, but under new command and new rules. The 3 in the middle, he paused. You have 10 seconds to decide if you want to gamble that I can't tell when someone's lying to me. 2 of them bolted for the right side. The last one, older, scarred, his face twisted with something that might have been shame or might have been rage, spat at Kalen's feet. You're still a monster, he said. Curse or no curse, human or beast. You killed your own father. That's what you are. Kalen moved so fast Iris barely saw it. One moment he was standing beside her. The next he had the guard pinned against the wall, forearm across his throat. You're right, Kalen said quietly. I did kill him. I killed the man who raised me because your masters convinced me it was necessary. They used my love for this kingdom as a weapon, turned me into a patricide, and then cursed me for it. His voice was ice. So yes, I'm a monster, but at least I'm an honest one. What's your excuse? He released the guard. The man crumpled to the floor, gasping. Take him with the others, Kalen told the remaining guards, and send word to the magistrate. I want formal charges drawn up by morning. The guards moved to obey, all except one, the young one who'd spoken about his sister. Your Highness, he said. What about the girls? The ones who survived. There are 7 still in the castle. 7 who are waiting their turn. Iris's heart stopped. 7? Yes. Lord Garrett kept a rotation, usually 8 to 10 at a time. You were the newest. The others have been here months, some over a year. Where are they? 4th floor, east wing, same wing you were in. Iris grabbed Kalen's arm. We have to get them out. We will, but first, he turned to the young guard. What's your name? Denner, Your Highness. Denner, I'm promoting you to captain of the guard. Your first order is to find those 7 girls and bring them somewhere safe, somewhere warm with actual food and clean water. Can you do that? Denner's eyes went wide. Yes, Your Highness, but, Captain, I'm only 23, and you're the only guard in this castle who had the spine to speak truth to power. That's worth more than experience. Kalen clapped him on the shoulder. Go, help them. Report back when they're settled. Denner saluted and ran up the stairs. When they were alone again, Kalen turned to Iris. Are you all right? 7 girls, 7 more who've been living in that hell while I was... She stopped. While I was down here with you, reading books, being safe. You weren't safe. You were starving in the North Tower 3 days ago. But I survived. I got out. What about them? We'll make it right. All of it. Every girl who died here, every family destroyed by the council's schemes, we'll make it right. Kalen's hand found hers again. But first we need to secure the castle. If the merchants ran, if the guards are splitting loyalties, there could be more supporters, more people willing to fight for the council. As if summoned by his words, the sound of steel on steel rang out from somewhere above. Then screaming, real screaming this time, not the council's theatrical outrage, but genuine terror, Kaylin and Iris ran for the stairs. The main hall was chaos. Two groups of guards fighting each other, civilians caught in the middle, blood on the marble floors. Near the entrance, Margot was trying to shepherd a group of girls, the 7 survivors, Iris realized, toward safety, while guards loyal to the council blocked their path. "No one leaves!" One of the council guards shouted. "Lord Garrett's orders!" "Lord Garrett is in a dungeon cell," Margot shot back. "Let them through." The guard raised his sword. Margot stepped in front of the girls. The sword came down. Iris screamed, and Kaylin moved. He crossed the hall in seconds, grabbed the guard's wrist before the blade could fall, and twisted. The sword clattered to the floor. The guard followed it, clutching his broken arm. "New rule about," Kaylin announced, his voice carrying over the chaos. "Anyone who raises a weapon against an unarmed person in my castle forfeits their right to serve. Anyone who follows council orders over royal ones forfeits their position. And anyone who harms one of these girls forfeits their life." The fighting stopped. Every guard, loyalist and neutral alike, froze. "I am Kaylin Theron Aldrich, rightful king of this realm, and I am taking back my throne. If you want to oppose me, do it now. If you want to serve, put down your weapons and swear fealty. If you want to run," he gestured at the door. "Run, I won't stop you. But if you stay and fight against me, you won't survive." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then one guard knelt, then another, then 10. The council loyalists looked at each other, looked at their reduced numbers, looked at the king standing between them and their targets. 3 of them bolted for the door. The rest lowered their weapons. "Smart choice," Kaylin said. "Denner." The young captain appeared from the crowd. "Your Highness? Disarm the council loyalists. Lock them in the East Barracks until we can sort out who is following orders and who is participating willingly. Double the guard on the dungeons. No one gets in or out without my personal authorization." "Yes, Your Highness." Kaylin turned to Margot. "Are they hurt?" Margot shook her head. Her usually severe expression had cracked, showing something raw underneath. "No, frightened but unharmed. Get them somewhere safe, somewhere comfortable." And Margot... He paused. "Thank you for protecting them." Margot's eyes filled with tears she refused to let fall. "I should have protected all of them, all 53. I should have... You did what you could under an impossible system. That's enough." Kaylin's voice softened. "It has to be enough, or we'll all drown in guilt." He moved past her to the 7 girls. They ranged in age from maybe 16 to 25, all of them painfully thin, all of them wearing the same gray dresses, all of them staring at him with expressions that mixed hope and terror. "You're free," he told them. "All of you. The tribute system is over. You'll be given rooms, clothes, food, and safe passage home if you want it, or positions here in the castle if you'd rather stay. Your choice." The youngest one started crying. Then they all were, messy, ugly crying that came from months or years of holding it in. Iris moved to them, wrapped her arms around the nearest girl, barely older than herself, with dark hair and hollow eyes. "It's over," Iris whispered. "It's really over." The girl clung to her and sobbed. Behind them, Kaylin was reorganizing the remaining guards, sending runners to different parts of the castle, establishing order from chaos with the kind of natural authority that came from years of training he'd almost forgotten he had. Iris watched him, watched the way people responded to his commands, the way even the guards who'd been fighting for the council minutes ago now moved to obey him. This was what he'd been before the curse, before his own council had turned him into a monster, a king. By nightfall, the castle had stabilized. The council loyalists were secured. The merchants were compiling records. The 7 girls were in proper rooms with actual beds and food that didn't taste like punishment. And Kaylin was in the throne room, sitting in a chair he hadn't occupied in 6 years, looking simultaneously comfortable and completely out of place. Iris found him there alone. "You should be resting," he said without turning around. "So should you." "Can't. Too much to do." "The magistrate arrives tomorrow. I need to review the charges, prepare testimony, figure out how to hold trials that won't just look like revenge." "Kaylin." Iris walked around to face him. "Breathe." He laughed. It sounded broken. "I don't know how to do this. 6 years I spent down there, and I forgot. I forgot how to be this." "You haven't forgotten anything. You just need practice." "What if I'm not good at it anymore?" What if the curse changed me too much? Iris climbed onto the throne's arm and sat there, eye level with him. Then you'll figure it out. You spent 6 years learning how to be human while trapped in a monster's body. Learning to be king again should be easy by comparison. Nothing about this is easy. Good. Easy things aren't worth doing. Kaelin looked at her. Really looked at her. How are you so calm? Your entire world just turned inside out. My entire world turned inside out the day my father sold me to you. This is just the aftermath. She reached for his hand, found it shaking. We survived the worst part. Everything else is just cleanup. The council has allies, people who benefited from their corruption. They'll fight the charges, drag it out, make it political. Let them. You have the truth. You have witnesses. You have 53 graves that tell their own story. Iris squeezed his hand. And you have me. Why? The question came out raw. Why are you still here? You're free. You could go home, go anywhere. Why stay with the monster who nearly killed you? You never tried to kill me. You gave me books and stories and the first real conversation I'd had in years. You saw me as a person when my own family didn't. She touched his face, feeling the smoothness where fur had been, the warmth where cold scales had pressed. And you're not a monster. You never were. They made you into one, and you refused to let it stick. Kaelin's eyes closed. I killed 17 people when I first transformed. 17 people who didn't deserve it. Because the curse had just taken hold, because you were fighting it and losing, because the council made sure you'd be at your most dangerous right after. She stopped. They planned that too, didn't they? The rampage? Probably. Can't prove it, but it fits their pattern. Create the monster, let it kill enough people to justify the prison, then use the prison to hide their crimes. His eyes opened. I should have seen it. Should have questioned more, fought harder. You were cursed and mourning your father and convinced you deserved it. You survived. That's enough. Is it? It has to be. They sat in silence for a while. The throne room was dark, except for a few candles. Outside, the castle was settling into an uneasy peace. Finally, Kaelin spoke. The council's trial starts in 3 days. The magistrate will want your testimony. All the surviving girls' testimony. It won't be easy. I know.
They'll attack your credibility. Say you're biased, that you were under my influence, that you can't be trusted. Let them try. Iris, I spent 22 years being told I was worthless. Being told my word meant nothing because I was born wrong. I'm not afraid of some corrupt old men calling me a liar. She stood. I'll testify. So will the others. And when we're done, everyone will know exactly what the council did. Kaelin stood too. Looked down at her. He was taller without the curse hunching him, she realized. Broader through the shoulders, the kind of build that came from years of combat training. Thank you, he said quietly. For what? For seeing past the monster. For giving me a reason to fight the curse, for being brave enough to tell me the truth even when it could have gotten you killed. He touched her face the way she'd touched his, for choosing me when you had every reason not to. Iris's heart was doing something complicated in her chest. You chose me first. You let me live when you could have killed me. You treated me like a person when no one else would. That's different. No, it's not. We chose each other. That's what makes this work. Kaelin's thumb traced her cheekbone. What is this exactly? Iris hadn't let herself think about it. Hadn't let herself name the thing growing between them because naming it made it real, and real things could be destroyed. But standing here in the throne room with her almost murderer turned king, looking at her like she was something precious, she couldn't avoid it anymore. I don't know, she admitted, but I want to find out. Even though I'm about to be king of a kingdom that's falling apart, even though half the nobility will want me dead? Especially because of that? Kaelin laughed, really laughed, head thrown back, the sound echoing off the vaulted ceiling. You're insane. So are you. We're perfect for each other. He pulled her closer. Not quite an embrace. Just close enough that she could feel his warmth, smell the scent of him. No longer earth and blood and beast, but something cleaner, something human with just a hint of the wild still clinging. When this is over, he said quietly, when the trials are done and the kingdom is stable and I can think about something other than survival, Yes?
I want to build you that library, the one you asked for. A real one, with proper shelves and good light and every book I can find. His eyes met hers, and I want you to stay in it, with me, for as long as you'll have me. Iris's throat tightened. That sounds like a proposal. It's not yet. Too much to fix first. Too many people to answer to. Too much that could still go wrong. He smiled, and it was sad and hopeful in equal measure. But maybe someday, when we've earned it. I'll hold you to that. I'm counting on it. A knock at the door interrupted them. Denner entered, looking apologetic. Your Highness, sorry to interrupt, but there's something you need to see. What is it? The records. The merchants brought the first batch. He stopped. You need to see it yourself. They followed him to a room that had been converted into a makeshift office. Ledgers covered every surface. Scrolls piled on the floor. Papers stacked in towers that looked ready to collapse. And in the middle of it all stood a middle-aged man with ink-stained fingers and spectacles sliding down his nose. Your Highness, he said, bowing awkwardly. I'm Terence, Master Accountant. The merchants asked me to compile the Council's financial records. I've been working through the night, and I've found... He gestured at the chaos around him. It's worse than we thought. How much worse? They've stolen approximately 40% of the Crown's revenue over the last 6 years. Diverted funds from infrastructure, military, emergency reserves, everything. They've left the kingdom nearly bankrupt. Terence picked up a ledger. And that's not including the bribes, the embezzlement, or the foreign contracts that gave away Crown resources for fractions of their value. Kalen's face went still. 40%. At minimum. Some of the records are coded. It could be more. How has the kingdom not collapsed? Because they raised taxes on the common people. Told everyone it was to fund the king's recovery, to maintain the tribute system, to protect the kingdom from external threats. Terence's voice was bitter. People paid because they were afraid, because they believed the council was keeping them safe. Iris felt sick. My pack's tribute payments. My father kept questioning why they kept increasing, because they were funding the council's mansions, their private armies, their retirement plans in foreign countries. Terence pulled out another ledger. Lord Garrett alone has transferred enough gold to Estrin to live like royalty for 3 lifetimes. The room went silent. Kalen walked to the window, looked out at the kingdom he'd been cursed to protect, and had instead been stolen from beneath him. Make copies of everything, he said finally. I want the magistrate to have complete records. I want the nobility to see exactly what was done in their names. I want every common person who paid increased taxes to know where their money actually went. That will cause riots, Terence warned. Good. They should riot. They should be furious. Their kingdom was stolen and they were told it was for their own protection. Kalen turned back. Make the copies. Distribute them widely. Let the people decide what they want to do with the truth. Terence bowed and returned to his ledgers. Denner cleared his throat. Your Highness, there's one more thing. The 7 girls, the survivors, they want to speak with you, together. About what? They wouldn't say, just that it was important. Kalen and Iris followed Denner to a sitting room where the 7 girls waited. They looked better than they had this morning. Cleaner, better fed, wearing actual colors instead of gray. But their eyes still held that haunted quality that came from months of waiting to die. The oldest one stood when Kalen entered. She was maybe 25, with auburn hair and a scar on her neck that looked like a failed hanging. Your Highness, she said. Thank you for seeing us. Of course. What did you need? The girl looked at the others. They nodded. We want to testify, she said. All of us. At the council's trial, we want to tell everyone what they did, what they put us through. We want the kingdom to know. You don't have to do that. Your written statements would be sufficient. We want to. The girl's voice was steel. They took months of our lives, told us we were worthless, told us we deserved to die. They made us watch each other disappear into that chamber and never come back. Her hands clenched. They don't get to hide anymore. They don't get to pretend this was necessary or justified or anything but what it was. Murder. The other girls stood, 6 voices speaking as one. We'll testify. Kalen looked at them. At the 7 who'd survived when 53 hadn't. At the fury and grief and determination burning in their eyes. All right, he said. You'll testify. All of you, and the kingdom will listen." The auburn-haired girl smiled. It was sharp as broken glass. "Good, because we have a lot to say." 3 days later, the throne room was packed. Nobility, merchants, common people, anyone who could squeeze inside was there. The magistrate sat at a raised bench. The 5 council members sat in chains before him, and surrounding them all, guards loyal to the crown. Kaelin sat on his throne. Iris stood beside him, not on the throne, she'd refused that, but close enough to reach if he needed her. The magistrate called the room to order.
"We are here to try 5 men for treason against the crown," he announced. "Lord Garrett, Lord Marcus, Lord Thorne, Lord Varon, and Lord Castellan. The charges are extensive. The evidence is damning. We will proceed with testimony." For 3 days, witnesses spoke. Terence detailed the financial crimes with ledgers and receipts and mathematical proof of theft. The merchants confessed to their parts, buying leniency with information about foreign contracts and illegal deals. The guards testified about orders to bring tribute girls, to keep them isolated, to make sure none survived if they tried to escape. And on the 3rd day, the 7 girls stood before the kingdom and told their stories. One by one, they described the gray rooms and the starvation and the terror. The girls who'd gone into the chamber and never returned. The way the council had visited sometimes to mock them, to remind them they were worthless, to make sure they knew no one was coming to save them. The auburn-haired girl went last. "My name is Alara," she said. Her voice carried to the back of the room. "I was sent here because I saw Lord Marcus accepting bribes from a Valdrin diplomat. I told my father. He tried to report it. A week later, I was selected for tribute. My father died trying to stop them from taking me." The room was silent. "I spent 14 months in this castle waiting to die. I watched 9 girls go into that chamber. None of them came back. I knew I was next. I knew I'd die down there like them, like all the others the council had sent before us." Alara's eyes burned. But then Iris survived, and everything changed. She looked at Iris. The other 6 girls looked too. She didn't accept what they told her, didn't believe she was worthless. She went into that chamber and came out and kept going back. She broke the system by refusing to die. Alara turned to the magistrate. "So when you ask me what these men deserve, I say this. They deserve what they gave us. They deserve to know what it feels like to wait for death in the dark. They deserve to understand the terror they created. And then they deserve worse." The magistrate nodded slowly. "Thank you for your testimony." Alara sat down. The magistrate looked at the 5 council members. "Do you have anything to say in your defense?" Lord Garrett stood. He'd lost weight in 3 days. Lost the arrogance, too. But his eyes still calculated. "Everything we did was to protect the kingdom," he said. "The prince was dangerous, uncontrollable. He killed 17 people." "After you cursed him," Iris interrupted. Every head turned. The magistrate frowned. "Miss Iris, you're not— I have evidence, new evidence, evidence that changes everything." Kaelin looked at her sharply. She hadn't mentioned new evidence. Iris pulled a folded paper from her pocket. Last night, one of the girls, Alara, remembered something, a conversation she overheard between Lord Marcus and Lord Garrett. She didn't understand it at the time, but now— She handed the paper to the magistrate. He read it. His face went white. "Where did you get this?" Alara heard them discussing it. "I asked Terence to search the old records. He found the receipt." Iris's voice was steady. 2 days before the old king died, the council purchased blood magic components from a Valdrin witch, enough to power a significant curse. The room erupted. The magistrate shouted for order. It took 5 minutes to restore quiet. "Lord Garrett," the magistrate said, "did you purchase curse components before the king's death?" "No." "Then how do you explain this receipt with your signature?" Garrett's face worked through several expressions. "The receipt is forged." "It's not," Terence called from the crowd. "I verified it against other documents. The signature matches. The merchant confirms the sale. The timeline fits perfectly." The magistrate turned to Kaelin. "Your Highness, did you know about this?" Kaelin's hand found Iris's under the cover of the throne's arm, squeezed once. "No," he said, "but it makes sense. The council told me my father had gone mad, that I needed to stop him. I confronted him. We fought. I killed him." His voice dropped. "But I never questioned why I'd been so willing to believe them.
why I'd attacked my own father without more proof, why the curse took hold so fast. He stood. They used blood magic to prime me, to make me suggestible, to ensure that when the moment came, I'd kill without questioning. Kalen's eyes found Garrett. You didn't curse me as punishment. You cursed me as a tool. You needed the king dead and the prince contained, so you made me kill him and then bound me with magic to make sure I couldn't retaliate. Lord Garrett said nothing. The magistrate looked at the other council members. Anyone else want to confess before I pass judgment? Lord Marcus broke first. It was Garrett's plan. All of it. We just followed orders. Shut up, Garrett snarled. No, I won't hang for your schemes. Marcus turned to the magistrate. Garrett orchestrated everything. The embezzlement, the foreign deals, the king's death. He told us the prince was weak, that we could control him. When that didn't work, he suggested the curse. We didn't know he'd already bought the components. You knew enough, Kalen interrupted. You all knew enough. You participated. You profited. You sent girls to die to hide what you'd done. The magistrate stood. I've heard enough. The evidence is clear. The testimony is compelling. The crimes are beyond dispute. He looked at the 5 men in chains. I find you all guilty of treason, murder, theft, and conspiracy against the crown. The sentence is death. The room erupted again. This time, the noise was approval. Garrett lunged for the magistrate. The guards caught him halfway, dragged him back down. You'll regret this, Garrett screamed at Kalen. The kingdom won't follow a monster. You'll never be able to rule. They'll always see you as cursed. Kalen descended from the throne, walked to where Garrett struggled against the guards, looked down at the man who'd orchestrated his father's death and his own torture. Maybe, he said quietly, but I'd rather be an honest monster than a lying man. He turned to the guards. Take them to the dungeons. Execute them at dawn. The council members were dragged away, still screaming protests and threats. When they were gone, the throne room fell silent. The magistrate cleared his throat. Your Highness, if I may, the kingdom needs stability. The people need to know what comes next. Kalen looked out at the crowd, at the nobility who'd benefited from the council's corruption, at the common people who'd paid for it, at the 7 girls who'd survived it. What comes next is accountability, he said. Every contract the council signed will be reviewed. Every corrupt deal will be dissolved. Every stolen coin will be returned to the people it was taken from, and anyone who profited from their schemes will answer for it. He turned to Iris, extended his hand. She took it and let him pull her forward. This is Iris, he told the kingdom. She survived what 53 others didn't. She exposed the council's crimes. She saved my life and helped me break a curse that should have been permanent. His eyes swept the crowd. And I'm appointing her as my chief advisor. The room went dead silent. Iris stared at him. What? You're smart, you're honest. You see through political nonsense and you're not afraid to speak truth to power. Kalen smiled. You're exactly what this kingdom needs. What I need. I'm wolfless. I'm nobody. Half this room thinks I'm the woman who outsmarted my council, broke my curse, and stood up to men twice her age with 10 times her power. Kalen's voice carried. I don't care what they think. I care what you can do. So, he squeezed her hand. Will you help me fix this broken kingdom? Iris looked at the crowd, at the mixed expressions of shock and approval and rage, at the 7 girls who were nodding at her, urging her to say yes, at Margot standing in the back with tears streaming down her face. She looked at Kalen, at the king who'd been a monster and had chosen to be human anyway. Yes, she said. The throne room erupted in applause. Not everyone. The nobility looked furious, but the common people, the guards, the girls, they clapped until their hands must have hurt. And standing there with Kalen's hand in hers, Iris felt something she'd never felt before. She felt powerful. The feeling lasted exactly 3 hours. That's how long it took for the first assassination attempt. Iris was in the records room with Terrence, reviewing another stack of corrupted contracts, when the window exploded inward, glass everywhere, a figure in black dropping through, knife already raised. She dove sideways. The blade missed her throat by inches, buried itself in the chair where she'd been sitting. Guards! Terrence screamed. The assassin yanked the knife free and lunged again. Iris grabbed a ledger, heavy, leather-bound, thick as a brick, and swung it at his head. Connected. He staggered. She ran. The corridor was empty. Too empty. Where were the guards Kaylin had stationed? Where was anyone? Footsteps behind her. Fast, getting closer. Iris rounded a corner and slammed directly into someone. Strong hands caught her arms. She screamed and fought. Iris, it's me, Kaylin. Human, thank everything, not mid-transformation. His eyes went from her face to something behind her, and his expression turned to stone. Get behind me, he said. The assassin rounded the corner, saw Kaylin, didn't slow down. Kaylin caught the knife hand mid-strike. Twisted. Something cracked. Bone, probably. The assassin screamed and dropped the weapon. Who sent you? Kaylin's voice was ice. The assassin spat in his face. Kaylin slammed him against the wall. I asked you a question. The nobility. The real power in this kingdom. Not some cursed pretender and his wolfless whore. Kaylin's fist connected with the man's jaw. The assassin's head snapped back, went limp. Guards finally arrived, Denner and 4 others, weapons drawn. Where were you? Kaylin demanded. We were told to patrol the East Wing. Anonymous tip about intruders. Denner stopped. It was a diversion, obviously. Kaylin released the unconscious assassin. Let him crumple to the floor. Take him to the dungeons. Find out who hired him. Find out how he got in. Find out everything. Yes, Your Highness? Kaylin turned to Iris. Are you hurt? She was shaking so hard her teeth chattered. No, I'm fine. Terrence, I'll send someone to check on him. Kaylin pulled her close. She could feel his heart hammering against his ribs. You're not fine. You're in shock. I'm angry. That too. They tried to kill me. In your castle. 3 hours after you appointed me advisor. Her hands clenched in his shirt. They're not even waiting. They're not even pretending to accept this. I know. So what do we do? Kaylin was quiet for a moment. Then he pulled back, looked at her face, and something in his expression shifted. We go on the offensive, he said. That night, Kaylin called an emergency assembly. Every noble family within 3 days' travel was summoned. Mandatory attendance. Anyone who refused would forfeit their lands and titles. They came. Furious, frightened, but they came. The throne room was packed again. But this time the atmosphere was hostile. Iris could feel it pressing against her skin, rage and fear and barely contained violence. She stood beside Kaylin's throne wearing a dress that wasn't gray. Deep blue, borrowed from one of the noble girls who'd volunteered her wardrobe. It fit poorly, but it was better than the tribute uniform. Kaylin stood to address them. 3 hours ago, someone tried to assassinate my chief advisor. In my castle, under my protection. The assassin has been questioned. He's given us names. The crowd shifted, uncomfortable, afraid. I'm not going to share those names yet. I'm giving the people responsible one chance to confess, to step forward and face justice honorably instead of being dragged to it. Kaylin's eyes swept the room. You have until I count to 10. Silence. 1. Nobody moved. 2. Somebody coughed, nervous energy crackling through the crowd. 3. This is absurd, someone called out. You can't threaten us. 4. We have rights. We have... 5. A man stepped forward from the crowd, middle-aged, wealthy by his clothing, face pale as snow. I hired him. It wasn't personal. It was business. Business, Kaylin repeated flatly. She's wolfless, common-born. She has no right to advise the crown. Her appointment undermines the entire social order. 6. Another man stepped forward, then a woman, then 3 more. By the time Kaylin reached 8, 12 nobles had confessed to funding or planning the assassination. Thank you for your honesty, Kaylin said. Guards, arrest them. You can't, the first man protested. We confessed. You said, I said you'd face justice honorably. I didn't say there wouldn't be consequences. Kaylin's voice was hard. You tried to murder an unarmed woman because you didn't like her birth status. That's not business. That's cowardice. The guards moved in. The 12 nobles fought and screamed and threatened. None of it mattered. When they were gone, Kaylin turned to the remaining crowd. New rule. Anyone who harms or threatens my advisor will be treated as if they'd harmed or threatened me. Anyone who questions her authority questions mine. Anyone who thinks her birth makes her unworthy can test that theory against my judgment. He paused. Any questions? Silence. Good. Now let's talk about what comes next. Because, like it or not, this kingdom is changing. The corruption is over. The tribute system is over. The idea that birth determines worth, that's over too. You can't just overturn centuries of tradition, someone called out. Watch me. Kaelin gestured to Iris. She survived what 53 others didn't. She outsmarted a council that had been stealing from you for 6 years. She broke a curse your tradition said was permanent. So when you tell me she's not worthy to advise me, what you're really saying is that you prefer the comfortable lie to the uncomfortable truth. He let that settle. Here's the truth. Most of you are here because your ancestors did something noteworthy 300 years ago. You've been coasting on their achievements ever since, contributing nothing, taking everything, and calling it your birthright. That ends now. From this point forward, positions in my government will be earned, not inherited, not purchased, earned through competence and loyalty and actual work. The crowd erupted, shouting, protests, threats. Kaelin let them rage for 30 seconds. Then he raised his hand. The noise cut off like someone had severed it with a blade. I'm not asking for your approval. I'm informing you of reality. Adapt or lose everything you have left. His eyes found Iris. Because the girl you tried to kill today, she's going to help me rebuild this kingdom, and anyone who stands in the way will be removed. The assembly dissolved into chaos. Some nobles stormed out. Others clustered in angry groups, whispering plots. A few, not many, but a few, approached Iris afterward. I'm sorry, one young woman said quietly, about the assassination attempt, about everything. Some of us don't agree with the old families. Iris studied her, maybe 20, dark hair, intelligent eyes. What's your name?
Helena, my family isn't, we're minor nobility, barely. But I wanted you to know that not everyone hates what you're doing. Thank you, Helena hesitated. If you need help with the reforms or the records or anything, I'm good with numbers, and I'd rather work for a kingdom that values competence than one that values bloodlines. Iris looked at Kaelin. He nodded. You're hired, Iris said. Report to Terrence tomorrow morning. We need all the help we can get.
Helena's face lit up. Thank you. I won't let you down. She left. 3 others approached with similar offers. By the end of the night, Iris had assembled the skeleton of an actual advisory staff. Young, untested, hungry to prove themselves. Exactly what they needed. 2 weeks later, the executions were carried out. The council members died at dawn in the castle courtyard. Public execution. Kaelin had wanted it private, but Iris convinced him otherwise. The people need to see it, she'd argued, need to see that justice actually happens, that the powerful can be held accountable. So they watched, thousands of them. Common people who'd paid the council's inflated taxes, families who'd lost daughters to the tribute system, guards who'd followed orders they knew were wrong. They watched Lord Garrett and his co-conspirators face the headsman's axe. No last words, no dramatic speeches, just quick, clean deaths that were more mercy than they deserved. Iris stood on the battlements and watched it happen. She thought she'd feel satisfaction, justice, something. Instead, she felt hollow. Kaelin found her there afterward. Are you all right? I thought I'd be happy. They're dead. The girls are avenged. Everything they did, it's over. She leaned against the stone. But I just feel tired. Revenge doesn't feel like they tell you it will, Kaelin said quietly. It's never as satisfying as you think it should be. Do you feel better? Knowing they paid for what they did to you? No. I feel like I wasted 6 years being angry at the wrong people. He moved to stand beside her. They deserve to die, but their deaths don't give me back the time I lost. Don't undo the curse. Don't bring back the girls who died. So what was the point? The point is that it stops. No more council corruption. No more tribute system. No more sacrificing the powerless to protect the powerful. He took her hand. We can't fix the past, but we can make sure it doesn't repeat. Below them, workers were already dismantling the execution platform. Life moving forward, always forward. I got a letter from my father yesterday, Iris said. Kaelin's hand tightened on hers. What did it say? that he's proud of me, that the pack has been following the trial, that they'd welcome me back with honor. Her laugh was bitter. Now that I'm the king's advisor instead of worthless tribute, suddenly I'm worth claiming again. What did you tell him? Nothing yet. I'm still deciding if I want to respond at all. Do you want my advice? Always. Kaelin was quiet for a moment. Your father made a choice when he traded you for your sister. He decided your value based on what you could do for him, not who you were. That's not love. That's transaction. He turned to face her. You don't owe him anything. Not forgiveness, not reconciliation, not even acknowledgement. What you owe is to yourself, to build a life where people value you for being you, not for what position you hold. Iris felt something crack in her chest, something that had been holding on too tight for too long. I'm not going back, she said. Ever. Good, because I'm not letting you go. She looked at him. At this man who'd been a monster and had chosen humanity, who'd been cursed and had refused to let it define him, who'd been king and had decided to rebuild rather than rule. Is that still not a proposal? She asked. Kaelin smiled. Still not. Ask me again in a year when we've proven we can actually run a kingdom together. A year seems like a long time. It'll pass faster than you think. We have a lot to do. He wasn't wrong. The next 6 months were brutal. The kingdom had to be rebuilt from the foundation up. Every corrupt contract reviewed, every stolen coin traced, every family that had profited from the council's schemes investigated. Half the nobility lost their titles. Some fled to neighboring kingdoms. Others adapted, started actually working for their positions. The tribute system was formally abolished. A memorial built in the castle courtyard, 53 names carved in stone. A reminder. The 7 surviving girls all chose to stay. Alara became head of castle security. The others took positions throughout the government, each one of them earning their place through competence. Helena proved invaluable. Her mind for numbers rivaled Terrence's. Within 3 months, she'd restructured the entire tax system to be actually fair. Denner trained a new guard force, loyal to the crown, not to corrupt nobles. Young, diverse, chosen for character over connections. And Iris learned how to advise a king. It wasn't natural, wasn't easy. She made mistakes constantly, trusted the wrong people, misjudged situations, spoke too harshly sometimes, too softly others. But she learned. And Kaelin learned too. How to be king without being monster. How to lead without terrorizing. How to rebuild trust that had been shattered for 6 years. They fought sometimes. Loud arguments about policy or strategy, or whether to execute someone or show mercy. But they always came back to the same place, trying to build something better than what had been broken. 6 months after the executions, a delegation arrived from Iris's home pack. Her father led it. Iris received them in the throne room with Kaelin beside her. She wore deep blue again. Her color now, she'd decided. The color she'd worn the day someone tried to kill her, and she'd survived. Daughter, her father said. He looked older, tired. It's good to see you well. Is it? His smile faltered. I know you're angry. You have every right, but I came to apologize. What I did, trading you for your sister, it was wrong. It was pragmatic. You chose the daughter who could strengthen the pack over the daughter who couldn't. That's what good leaders do, isn't it? Make hard choices for the greater good? It wasn't. I didn't mean. He stopped, started again. I failed you. As a father. As an alpha. I let my fear of your differences override my love for my child. Did you love me? Iris asked. Really? Or did you just feel obligated to? The question hung in the air. Her father's face worked through several expressions. I don't know. I wish I could say I did, that I loved you despite everything. But the truth is, I don't know if I was capable of loving something I didn't understand. It was the most honest thing he'd ever said to her. Thank you for that, Iris said quietly. For the honesty, it's more than I expected. Will you forgive me? Iris looked at Kaelin. He gave her the smallest nod. Your choice. Always your choice. No, she said to her father. I won't forgive you. What you did wasn't a mistake, it was a choice. You chose my sister over me. You chose the pack over your daughter. I understand why, but I don't forgive it. Then why did you agree to see me? Because I wanted you to see what I became without you. I wanted you to know that being wolfless didn't make me worthless. Being rejected didn't destroy me. All the things you thought were weaknesses, they made me strong enough to survive what should have killed me. She stood. I'm the chief advisor to the king. I helped break a curse and overthrow a corrupt government. I've built a life here with people who value me for who I am, not what I can do for them. And I did all of it without you.
Her father's face crumpled. I'm proud of you. I don't care. The words came out harder than she'd intended. But they were true. She'd spent 22 years desperate for his approval, desperate to be worth his pride. And now that she had it, she realized it meant nothing.
You can tell the pack I'm well, that I'm happy, that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. But I won't be coming home. This is home now. She gestured to the castle around them. You're welcome to visit. As foreign dignitaries, but not as family. Her father looked like she'd struck him. Iris, that's all. You're dismissed. He left. The delegation left with him. When they were gone, Kaylin moved to her side. Are you all right?
I don't know. I thought it would feel better. Finally telling him off. Finally making him see. But it just feels sad. Yeah. Kaylin pulled her close. You didn't need his approval to be worth something. You never did. But I know it hurts anyway. Iris pressed her face against his chest and let herself feel it. The grief for the father she'd wanted but never had. The anger at the years wasted trying to earn love that should have been freely given. The relief that it was over. All of it.
I got another letter yesterday, she said into his shirt. From who? My sister, Sarah. Kaylin pulled back to look at her face. What did she want? To apologize. Said she'd been a coward, that she'd watched me leave and done nothing because it was easier than fighting for me. She said she was ashamed. Do you believe her? I don't know, maybe. Does it matter? That's up to you. Iris thought about it. About the sister who'd been everything she couldn't be, who'd taken the love and attention and opportunities that should have been shared, who'd stood at the window and watched Iris leave without saying goodbye. I'm going to write her back, Iris decided. Not because I forgive her, but because maybe someday I will. And I want to leave that door open. That's generous of you.
No, it's selfish. I don't want to spend the rest of my life being angry. Anger is exhausting. I'd rather spend my energy building something new.
Kaylin smiled. Have I mentioned lately that you're smarter than me? Not in the last hour. I was starting to worry. He laughed and kissed her forehead. Come on, we have a kingdom to run, and it's been at least 3 hours since someone tried to undermine us. We're probably due for another crisis. He wasn't wrong, but the crises got smaller as time went on. Less assassination attempts. Fewer nobles openly defying the new order. More people adapting. A year after the council's execution, Kaylin called Iris to the library. Not the old royal library in his former chamber, that had been left empty, preserved as a memorial. This was the new one he'd built, the one he'd promised her. It took up an entire wing of the castle. Floor-to-ceiling shelves, windows that let in real light, comfortable chairs, tables for working, everything she'd asked for and more. It's finished, he said when she arrived. Finally. Took 3 times longer than the architects promised and cost twice the budget, but it's done. Iris walked through it slowly, ran her fingers along the shelves, breathed in the smell of paper and leather and possibility. It's perfect, she whispered. I'm glad you like it, because I'm hoping you'll spend a lot of time here. I already spend too much time with books. You keep complaining about it. I changed my mind. Kaylin moved to stand in front of her. I want you to spend the rest of your life here if that's what makes you happy. In this library, in this castle, with me. Iris's heart stopped. Is that a proposal? Yes. Finally. Officially. He pulled out a ring. Simple gold, no stones, just a band engraved with words too small to read from a distance. I know it's been a year. I know we agreed to wait until we'd proven we could run a kingdom together, but we haven't proven that yet. I know, the kingdom's still a mess. We're still fighting corruption and prejudice and 1,000 other problems. It's going to take decades to fix everything the council broke. He took her hand. But I don't want to wait until everything's perfect, because it's never going to be perfect. There's always going to be another crisis or problem or disaster, and I want to face all of it with you. Not as my advisor, not as my friend, as my wife, my partner, my equal. Iris looked at the ring, at the words engraved on it. She could read them now that it was closer. She burned down the world and built a new one. The line from the Green Book, the story about the girl who refused to accept what everyone told her she was. You remembered, she said. I remember everything you've ever told me. Every story, every conversation, every moment. Kaylin's voice was rough. So, will you marry me? Will you help me finish burning down the old world and building a new one? Will you? Yes. The word came out before he could finish. Yes? Yes. Obviously, yes. Did you think I'd say anything else? Kaylin laughed and slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. I was prepared for a 15-minute lecture on the political ramifications of the king marrying a wolfless, common-born woman. Oh, there will be ramifications, huge ones. Half the nobility will lose their minds. There might be actual riots. I know. We'll have to deal with challenges to the succession, questions about heirs, probably another few assassination attempts. I know, and I still can't shift. Still can't give you children with wolf blood. Still can't be what a traditional queen should be. I know. I don't care. I want you, exactly as you are. Wolfless, common-born, smarter than me, stubborn as stone, and completely perfect. I'm not perfect. Perfect for me. That's what matters. Iris pulled him down and kissed him. The library spun around them. Thousands of books, hundreds of stories, all the possibilities of everything they could build together. When they finally pulled apart, Kaylin rested his forehead against hers. What are you thinking? He asked. That a year ago I was cargo waiting to die in a gray room, and now I'm standing in a library built for me by a king who wants me to be his queen, and none of it makes sense, but all of it is real. Is it too much? Too fast? We can wait if… No, I don't want to wait. I don't want to be careful or sensible or any of the things I was taught to be. She looked up at him. I want to be reckless. I want to marry you and scandalize the nobility and help you rebuild this kingdom into something that's never existed before. I want to burn it all down and build it back better. Together? Together. The wedding was 3 months later. They held it in the castle courtyard, right next to the memorial for the 53 girls. Iris insisted on it, wanted them there, wanted their names visible, wanted everyone to remember why they were building something different. Half the nobility boycotted. The other half came and complained loudly about the impropriety of it all. The common people flooded the courtyard. Thousands of them. They cheered when Iris walked down the aisle in deep blue. Cheered louder when Kaylin took her hands. The 7 surviving girls stood as her attendants. Alara cried through the entire ceremony. Helena kept adjusting Iris's dress. The others stood proud and fierce, daring anyone to object. When the officiant asked if anyone opposed the union, Denner's guards made it very clear what would happen to anyone who tried. No one objected. Iris and Kaylin spoke their vows. Simple ones. Honest ones. Promises to support each other, to build together, to never let power corrupt what they'd created. When they kissed, the crowd erupted. And standing there with her husband's arms around her, Iris looked out at the kingdom they were building. Imperfect. Messy, full of people who hated them and people who loved them and people who didn't know what to think. But it was theirs. They'd earned it. The feast afterward lasted until dawn, music and dancing and food that actually tasted good. The common people mixed with the remaining nobility. Barriers breaking down slowly but surely. Near midnight, Iris found Margot standing alone near the memorial. You should be celebrating, Iris said. Margot turned. She was crying. I am celebrating and mourning, both at once. The girls? I failed them, all 53. I was in charge of them and I let them die. You were following orders in an impossible situation. That's not the same as failure, isn't it? Margot's voice broke. I could have fought harder, could have refused, could have done something other than just watch them disappear one by one. Iris took her hand. You protected the 7 who survived. You told me the truth about the council when you didn't have to. You helped us expose everything. That matters. Does it balance out the ones I lost? No. Nothing balances that out. But it means something anyway. Iris squeezed her hand. We can't save the past. We can only honor it by doing better in the future. Margot nodded slowly. The king, your husband now, I suppose, he's appointed me as head of the new protection services for girls and women in vulnerable positions, making sure nothing like the tribute system ever happens again. Are you going to accept? I don't know if I deserve it.
None of us deserve anything. We just decide what we're going to do with what we're given. Iris gestured at the memorial. They deserved to live. They didn't, but we did. So we have to make it mean something. Margot was quiet for a long moment, then she straightened her shoulders. I'll accept, and I'll make sure no one ever has to go through what they did. What you did. Good, because we need you. The kingdom needs you. The kingdom needs you more. The wolfless girl who became queen. Margot almost smiled. They're already writing songs about you. Awful ones, I'm sure. Surprisingly good, actually. There's one about how you walked into the monster's lair with nothing but words and walked out with a kingdom. That's not how it happened. Close enough. Stories don't have to be perfectly accurate to be true. Iris thought about that. About the stories she and Kaylin had shared in the darkness. About the green book about the girl who burned down the world. About how stories shaped reality as much as reality shaped stories. I suppose not, she said. Kaylin found her there an hour later. The party was winding down, the sky lightening toward dawn. There you are. I've been looking for you. Sorry, I was talking to Margot. Is she all right? Getting there. We all are, I think. Kaylin pulled her close. Ready to go? I believe there's a tradition about newlyweds leaving the feast early. Scandalous. What will people think? That their king is madly in love with his queen and doesn't care who knows it. He kissed her temple. Come on, I have something to show you. He led her through the castle to the new library. But it looked different now. Candles everywhere, flowers on the tables, their favorite books pulled out and displayed. I thought we could start our marriage here, he said, where it really began. When you chose books over freedom, and I realized you were going to change everything. Iris walked through the candlelight, touched the flowers, the books, the life they'd built. Do you ever regret it? She asked. Choosing me? Making me your advisor, your wife? You could have picked someone with a bloodline, someone who'd make the nobility happy, someone who wasn't you? Never. Kaylin turned her to face him. You're the only person who's ever seen me. Not the prince, not the monster, not the king, just me. Kaylin, the man who reads too much and thinks too hard and wants to build something better than what he inherited. That's all I've ever wanted to be seen, to matter, to build something. And you have. You've built a kingdom, a government, a life. You've changed everything just by refusing to accept what everyone told you. He smiled. You're exactly what I needed, what the kingdom needed, what everyone who's been waiting for someone to fight for them needed. I'm just one person. So was the girl in the green book. One person who decided burning down the old world was better than living in it. One person who chose to build instead of accept. Iris pulled him down and kissed him. Long and slow and full of promise. When they pulled apart, she said, I love you. I don't think I've said that enough. You've said it plenty, but I never get tired of hearing it. Good, because I'm going to keep saying it every day for the rest of our lives, however long that is. However long that is, Kaylin echoed. They stayed in the library until dawn, reading to each other, planning the future, falling asleep in chairs too small for two people, but perfect anyway. And when the sun rose over the kingdom they were building, messy and imperfect and nothing like what had come before, they woke up together, ready to burn down whatever old world remained, ready to build something new from the ashes, ready to prove, over and over again, that being worthless was just another lie people told to maintain power, and ready to show anyone who doubted them exactly what happened when you gave a worthless girl the chance to become something more. She didn't just survive. She didn't just thrive. She changed everything. And in the end, the girl who'd been cast out as cargo didn't destroy the monster who was supposed to kill her. She rewrote him. She rewrote herself. She rewrote the entire kingdom. One story at a time. One choice at a time. One day at a time. Until worthless became priceless. Until monster became man. Until the ending everyone expected became the beginning
no one saw coming. And they called it a happy ending. But really, it was just the start.